I stared at the surgical consent form while my mother's fingers dug into my shoulders. "Sign it, Katrina," she hissed. My sister Lauren lay unconscious in the hospital bed, her skin yellow from liver failure. For 28 years, she'd made my life hell, and now my parents demanded I give her half my liver. Dad shoved the pen into my trembling hand. "You owe her this," he growled. The doctor entered with test results, his face grave. "There's something about the tissue compatibility we need to discuss." The fluorescent hospital lights buzzed overhead as I pulled away from my mother's grip. Looking at Lauren's still-form memories, flooded back like water breaking through a dam, she was 2 years older than me, and from my earliest memories, she was the sun around which our family orbited. Every report card she brought home earned celebration dinners. Every trophy she won got its own shelf. Every tear she shed brought immediate comfort and consequences for whoever had caused them. Usually that person was me. I was 8 years old when I first understood my place in our family hierarchy. Lauren had taken my birthday money from my dresser, $43 I'd saved from various relatives. When I caught her red-handed and told our parents, my mother's response chilled me to the bone. "Katrina Marie, how dare you accuse your sister of stealing? She probably needed it for something important. You should have offered it to her yourself." That night, Lauren cornered me in my room. "You little snitch," she whispered, her breath hot against my ear. "You'll pay for trying to get me in trouble." The next morning, I woke up to find my favorite doll decapitated, its head placed carefully on my pillow beside me. The worst incident happened when I was 10. Lauren had failed her math test and needed someone to blame. She waited until our parents were in the kitchen before calling me to the top of the stairs. "Katrina, come here. I want to show you something." Naive and still hoping for sisterly affection, I climbed the stairs eagerly. The moment I reached the top, she grabbed my shoulders. "This is what happens to tattletales," she snarled and shoved hard. I tumbled down all 14 steps, my arms snapping with a sound like a branch breaking. Through my tears and screams, I heard Lauren's voice transform instantly. "Mom, Dad, Katrina fell. She was running and tripped." At the hospital, while they set my broken arm, my parents lectured me about being more careful. "You need to stop being so clumsy," my father said sternly. "Lauren feels terrible that she couldn't catch you in time." The years that followed established a clear pattern. Lauren's cruelty escalated, but she became masterful at hiding it. She'd pinch me during family photos, leaving bruises under my clothes. She'd delete my homework from the computer and watch me get punished for not turning it in. She spread rumors at school that I wet the bed, that I smelled bad, that I had lice. Each time I tried to tell our parents, they'd shake their heads sadly. "Why do you insist on making up these stories about your sister? She loves you. This jealousy needs to stop." By high school, Lauren had discovered partying. She'd stumble home at 3 in the morning, reeking of alcohol and marijuana, and our parents would help her to bed, whispering about teenage phases. When I came home 5 minutes past curfew from studying at the library, I'd lose car privileges for a month. College brought brief respite. I chose a school 3 states away, ignoring my parents' guilt trips about abandoning the family. Those 4 years of freedom showed me what normal felt like. I made friends who didn't betray me. I dated without fear of sabotage. I excelled in my classes without someone destroying my work. But Lauren's lifestyle had caught up with her. Multiple DUIs, job losses, failed rehab stints funded by our parents' second mortgage. She'd call me drunk at 2 in the morning, alternating between cruel insults and sob stories. "You think you're better than me, don't you, Miss Perfect, with her degree and her apartment? You were always the favorite." The projection was so absolute it took my breath away, but I'd learned not to argue. I'd simply hang up and block her number for a few weeks until the cycle repeated. 3 months ago, she'd posted photos from Vegas on social media, partying with strangers, bottles of premium vodka covering the table. 2 weeks later, she was in the ICU with liver failure. The official story was accidental acetaminophen overdose, but her roommate pulled me aside at the hospital. She took the whole bottle on purpose after a 3-day bender, said she wanted to see if anyone would care. Now my parents sat vigil at her bedside, their retirement savings drained their house, leveraged to the hilt, still blind to the monster they'd created and enabled. My mother grabbed my hand, her nails digging crescents into my palm. The doctor says family members have the best chance of being compatible donors. You have to get tested. Mom, No excuses. My father's voice cracked like a whip. For once in your life, think about someone besides yourself. Your sister is dying. I wanted to scream, to list every bruise, every humiliation, every moment of pain she'd inflicted while they looked away. Instead, I heard myself whisper, "I'll think about it." My mother's face transformed with triumph. "I knew you'd do the right thing. I already told the transplant coordinator you'd be ready for testing tomorrow." My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, my boyfriend of 2 years. "How are you holding up?" Remember, no is a complete sentence. But as I looked at my parents' faces etched with desperation and willful blindness, I realized they'd never taught me that word when it came to Lauren. Tomorrow would bring tests and pressure and guilt. What I didn't know was that tomorrow would also bring the first crack in 28 years of carefully constructed lies. The foundation of our family was about to crumble, and nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning arrived with my mother's phone call at 6:15. "The transplant coordinator can see you at 8. I'll pick you up at 7:30. She hung up before I could respond, a lifetime of assumed compliance packed into that dial tone. I sat on the edge of my bed, Marcus still sleeping beside me, and tried to steady my breathing. My phone showed 17 missed calls from various family members overnight. The campaign had begun. By 7, my apartment buzzer was screaming. My mother stood in the lobby, her face a mask of determined suffering. "I knew you'd try to back out," she announced to my doorman, loud enough for the entire building to hear. "My daughter wants to let her sister die." Mom, please." "Don't you mom please me. Get dressed. We're going to the hospital." The car ride was a masterclass in emotional manipulation. She'd prepared a slideshow on her phone of Lauren's childhood pictures. "Look at this one from her 5th birthday. Remember how she saved you a piece of her cake?" She conveniently forgot to mention that Lauren had spit on that piece before giving it to me. At the hospital, the ambush was waiting. Aunt Martha, my mother's sister, sat in the testing center waiting room with Uncle James and their 3 adult children. They rose as one when we entered their faces grave with manufactured concern. "Katrina." Aunt Martha pulled me into a suffocating hug. "We've been praying all night for God to soften your heart." "I haven't even said no yet," I managed to squeeze out. "But you're thinking about it," my cousin Bradley chimed in. "Aunt Beth told us you were hesitant. That's basically murder, you know?" The transplant coordinator, a kind-faced woman named Janet, rescued me from the family mob. "Katrina, we're ready for you now. Just you," she added firmly when my mother tried to follow. In the consultation room, Janet's demeanor shifted to professional concern. "I need to ask you some questions, and I need you to be completely honest. Are you being pressured to donate?" The word "yes" stuck in my throat. 28 years of conditioning held it there. "My family is concerned about my sister." Janet made a note. "Let me be clear, living donation is voluntary. No one can force you to give an organ. If you tell me you're being coerced, we can stop this process right now." For a moment, I teetered on the edge of freedom. Then I heard my mother's voice through the door telling another family about her ungrateful daughter who wanted to murder her sister. "I'll do the tests," I heard myself say. The blood draw was routine, but the psychological evaluation felt like interrogation. Dr. Patricia Wells, the psychiatrist, had eyes that seemed to see through my carefully neutral answers. "Tell me about your relationship with your sister," she prompted. "It's complicated." "How so?" I chose my words carefully. We weren't close growing up, different personalities. Dr. Wells leaned back. Katrina, I've been doing this for 15 years. I can recognize when someone is editing their truth. Your physical response when I mention your sister suggests trauma, not simple personality differences. My hands were indeed shaking. I clasped them together. She was difficult sometimes. Difficult how? The words wanted to pour out. The push down the stairs story, the destroyed possessions, the systematic cruelty. But I could hear my family in the waiting room, their voices carrying through the thin walls as they discussed their prayer circle plans. Just typical sibling stuff, I lied. Dr. Wells made another note, her expression troubled. I'm going to approve you to continue testing, but I want you to know my door is open if you need to talk further. Back in the waiting room, my family had grown. Our pastor, Reverend Michael, had arrived with several church members. They circled me immediately, hands reaching out for impromptu prayer. Oh Lord, we ask that you remove the spirit of selfishness from Katrina's heart, Reverend Michael intoned while I stood frozen in the center. Help her see that sacrifice is the highest form of love. My phone buzzed constantly. Marcus was texting, but so were numbers I didn't recognize. My mother had given my contact information to her entire social circle. The messages ranged from Bible verses about sacrifice to explicit accusations of attempted sororicide. I've scheduled you for a prayer vigil tomorrow night, my mother announced as we left the hospital. The whole congregation wants to support you through this blessed journey. Mom, I haven't agreed to anything yet. We don't even know if I'm a match. She waved dismissively. Of course you're a match. You're sisters. And I've already told everyone you're donating. The church is so proud of you. Finally. That last word hung between us. Finally, I was doing something worthy of approval. Finally, I was putting Lauren first where she belonged. Finally, I was being the daughter they wanted. At home, Marcus was waiting with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine. How bad was it? They've told the entire church I'm donating. There's a prayer vigil tomorrow for my successful surgery. He pulled me close. You know you don't have to do this, right? It's your body, your life, your risk. You don't understand, I said into his chest. If I don't do this, I lose them forever. They'll tell everyone I killed her. Honey, he tilted my chin up. What exactly would you be losing? Parents who've never protected you, who've always chosen her over you? That's not love. That's not family. His words made sense, but 28 years of seeking approval doesn't die easily. That night, as I lay awake listening to my phone buzz with guilt-trip messages, I wondered if maybe this was my chance. Maybe saving Lauren would finally make me worthy of my parents' love. But somewhere in the darkest part of the night, a different thought crept in. What if their love was never worth earning in the first place? What if the price of their approval had always been too high? The next morning would bring more tests, more pressure, more carefully orchestrated guilt, but it would also bring something unexpected. The universe, it seemed, had been keeping secrets of its own. And sometimes the truth arrives exactly when we need it most, disguised as a routine medical test. My phone lit up with another message from my mother. Prayer vigil, moved to 6 p.m. Wear something nice. Channel 4 News might be there. I turned off my phone and closed my eyes. Tomorrow, everything would change. I just didn't know how much. The next morning arrived gray and drizzling, matching my mood as I drove myself to the hospital. I deliberately left early to avoid my mother's planned escort. The transplant center was quiet at 7:30, a small mercy that allowed me to check in without an audience. The physical evaluation was extensive. Height, weight, blood pressure, EKG, chest x-ray, and what seemed like enough blood draws to stock a small blood bank. The medical assistant, a young woman named Tammy with kind eyes, chatted as she worked. You're brave, she said while labeling vials. Not everyone would do this. I haven't agreed to anything yet, I reminded her and myself. She glanced at my chart. Oh, but it says here that surgery is tentatively scheduled for next week. My stomach dropped. Who scheduled that? According to the notes, your mother called yesterday saying you were eager to move forward quickly. Tammy must have seen my expression because she quickly added, but nothing's final until you sign consents, of course. The radiologist performing my ultrasound was less chatty but thorough. As he moved the probe across my abdomen, examining my liver from every angle, his brow furrowed slightly. Everything okay? I asked. Your liver is perfect, he said. Textbook healthy. You take good care of yourself. Unlike Lauren, I thought but didn't say. While she'd been destroying her body with substances, I'd been running marathons and eating salads. Yet here I was, expected to hand over half my pristine organ to someone who'd likely destroy it too. Dr. Patricia Wells found me in the waiting area between tests. Katrina, do you have a moment? We sat in a quiet corner away from the growing crowd of morning appointments. I've been thinking about our conversation yesterday, she began. I want to be very clear about something. No one can force you to donate an organ. If you're feeling pressured, we can find medical reasons to disqualify you. You mean lie? I mean protect you. It's not uncommon for family members to assume someone will donate without really asking. The medical team's job is to advocate for the donor, not the recipient. I studied my hands. My sister's dying. How can I say no? People say no every day for many valid reasons. Fear of surgery, concern about their own health, incompatibility, or simply because they don't want to. All of these are acceptable. Not to my family. Your family isn't the one who would undergo major surgery, who would spend 6 to 8 weeks recovering, who would live with increased risk for the rest of their life. That's all you. A text from my mother interrupted. Prayer vigil, starting early, 5 p.m. Wear the blue dress I bought you last Christmas. Dr. Wells noticed my expression. That kind of pressure. I showed her the text, then scrolled up to reveal dozens more. Messages from aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends, church members. All variations on the same theme save Lauren or be damned. This is harassment, Dr. Wells said firmly. Would you like me to speak to your family about appropriate boundaries? That would make it worse. I could already imagine my mother's reaction to being scolded by a psychiatrist. I just need to get through the testing, then we'll see if I'm even compatible. But as I headed to the final consultation with the transplant surgeon, Dr. Raymond Chen, doubt gnawed at me. Even if I wasn't compatible, would my family believe it? Or would they assume I'd somehow sabotaged the results? Dr. Chen's office was filled with medical degrees and family photos. He reviewed my test results with meticulous attention, occasionally making notes. Your physical health is excellent, he began. However, I have some concerns. My heart jumped. Concerns. The psychological evaluation suggests significant family pressure, and frankly, your blood work shows some unusual markers that require further investigation. Unusual how? He pulled up a complex chart on his computer. Nothing that affects your health, but there are certain genetic markers that don't align as we'd expect for biological siblings. It could be nothing. Genetics can be surprising, but I'd like to run a more comprehensive DNA panel. The word biological echoed in my head. Are you saying Lauren and I might not be related? I'm saying we need more information. These markers are just one piece of the puzzle, but it's important we investigate thoroughly before proceeding. He paused. Have your parents ever mentioned anything about adoption fertility treatments? Anything that might explain genetic variation? No, nothing. My mind raced. We looked nothing alike, Lauren and I. She had olive skin and dark hair. I was pale with auburn waves. But lots of siblings looked different, didn't they? A knock interrupted us. A nurse poked her head in, looking harried. Dr. Chen, the patient's family is demanding to speak with you. They're quite insistent. Through the door, I could hear my father's voice. I don't care about hospital protocol. I want to know why these tests are taking so long. Dr. Chen sighed. Please tell them I'll be with them shortly. He turned back to me. Katrina, I need you to understand something. Your safety is my primary concern. Not your sister's need, not your family's wishes. Yours. If these DNA results show what I suspect they might, we'll need to have a very different conversation. He handed me a discreet note with his direct number. Call me immediately if the pressure becomes unbearable. We have resources to help. I left his office through a back exit to avoid my family in the waiting room, but they found me in the parking garage. My mother materialized from behind a concrete pillar like an avenging angel. There you are, sneaking around like a criminal while your sister fights for her life. My father flanked her other side. The nurse said you've been here for hours. Why is this taking so long? Lauren doesn't have time for your delays. They're being thorough. Thorough. My mother's voice cracked. Your sister could die while they're being thorough. I spoke to the coordinator. She said you expressed doubts about donating. How could you? I never said. Don't lie to me. She grabbed my shoulders, shaking me slightly. I know you, Katrina. You've always been jealous of Lauren. Is this your revenge? Letting her die because she was prettier, more popular, more loved. The last two words hung in the air like a confession. More loved. At least she'd finally admitted it. My father stepped forward. Your mother's upset. But Katrina, think about what you're doing. Lauren made mistakes, yes, but she's family, and family forgives. Family sacrifices. When has she ever sacrificed for me? The words erupted before I could stop them. When has she ever done anything but hurt me while you watched? My mother's face went white, then red. How dare you speak ill of your dying sister after everything we've done for you? Everything you've done? You mean choosing her every single time, believing her lies, letting her hurt me over and over while you made excuses? The slap came fast, my mother's palm connecting with my cheek with a crack that echoed through the parking garage. The shock froze all three of us. Mom, I whispered, hand to my burning cheek. You made me do that, she said, but her voice shook. Your selfishness made me. No, I stepped back. I'm done. I'll finish the testing, but then I'm done. I drove away with shaking hands, their shouts following me out of the garage. At home, Marcus took one look at my face and pulled me into his arms. They hit you. She was upset. No, his voice was firm. No excuses, not for that. Never for that. As he held ice to my cheek, my phone rang. Dr. Chen's private line. Katrina, I've expedited the DNA test. Given what I observed today with your family, I think we need answers quickly. Can you come in tomorrow for the results? That fast. I called in a favor, and Katrina, bring someone supportive with you. I have a feeling you're going to need it. I hung up and looked at Marcus. He wants me to bring support tomorrow. Then I'll be there. He kissed my forehead gently. Whatever happens, you're not alone. But as I tried to sleep that night, my mother's words echoed more loved. Had I always known? Had that been the truth, lurking beneath every interaction, every choice, every moment of my childhood? Tomorrow would bring answers. What I didn't know was that those answers would shatter everything I thought I knew about my family, my identity, and the lies that had shaped my entire life. The prayer vigil was happening without me. Good, let them pray, because I was beginning to suspect that what my family needed wasn't divine intervention. It was the truth, and truth, as they say, has a way of setting people free. The hospital corridor felt different the next morning. Quieter, more ominous. Marcus held my hand as we walked toward Dr. Chen's office, his presence the only thing keeping me grounded. My phone mercifully silent after I'd blocked 17 family members the night before felt like a ticking bomb in my purse. Dr. Chen met us at his office door, his expression carefully neutral. Thank you for coming so quickly. Please, both of you have a seat. The chairs were comfortable, but I perched on the edge, ready to flee. Marcus settled beside me, solid and reassuring. I'll be direct. Dr. Chen began pulling up multiple computer screens. The comprehensive DNA analysis confirmed my suspicions. You and Lauren are not biological siblings. The words hit me like physical blows, each one a separate impact. Not biological siblings. But how? My voice sounded strange to my own ears. We grew up together. I've seen pictures of my mom pregnant with both of us. Dr. Chen shook his head gently. The genetic markers are conclusive. You share no more DNA than two random strangers. In fact, the testing shows you have completely different ethnic backgrounds. Lauren shows markers consistent with Mediterranean and Eastern European ancestry. Yours are primarily Irish and Scottish. Marcus squeezed my hand. Could there have been a mix-up at the hospital? Babies switched at birth? That was my first thought, Dr. Chen admitted. But the age difference rules that out. Lauren is 2 years older. This isn't a hospital error. This is something else. My mind spun, trying to make sense of impossibility. Are you saying one of us is adopted? That would be the most likely explanation, though which one I couldn't say. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Katrina, in cases like this, families sometimes have secrets they've never shared. Medical histories that were hidden. Decisions made decades ago that they thought would never surface. I need to call my parents. The words came automatically, even though the thought made me nauseous. Before you do, Dr. Chen interjected, there's more. The tissue compatibility testing shows you're not just incompatible as a donor for Lauren. Your liver tissue is so different from hers that transplantation would be virtually guaranteed to fail. Her body would reject the organ immediately. So even if I wanted to donate, it would be medically impossible. I've already notified the transplant team. You're officially ruled out as a donor candidate. Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by guilt. My sister was still dying, even if she wasn't my sister, even if nothing made sense anymore. Marcus spoke up. What happens now with Lauren's treatment? We'll expand the search to the wider donor registry, but Katrina, I need to prepare you. Your family may not accept these results easily. In my experience, medical facts often clash with emotional beliefs. How right he was became clear an hour later. I'd texted my parents to meet me at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. They arrived like storm clouds, my mother's face swollen from crying, my father's jaw set in rigid lines. Finally, my mother spat as we sat down. Do you have any idea what you put us through, disappearing from your own prayer vigil? Pastor Michael led the entire congregation in prayers for your soul. Mom, I need to tell you something about the test results. We already know, my father interrupted. The hospital called. Some nonsense about incompatibility. We're getting a second opinion, of course. It's not nonsense. Lauren and I aren't biological sisters. The DNA test? The slap of my mother's hand on the table made nearby patrons jump. Stop it. Just stop. I don't know what lies that doctor filled your head with, but you are sisters. I gave birth to both of you. Then how do you explain the DNA results? I don't have to explain anything. Tests can be wrong. Computers make mistakes. But I know what came out of my body. Katrina Marie. My father leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous. You did this, didn't you? Paid someone to fake the results. Found a way to weasel out of saving your sister. Dad, that's not even possible. Don't call me that. The words were ice. No daughter of mine would let her sister die over some grudge. She's not my sister. The words exploded out of me loud enough to silence the entire coffee shop. The DNA proves it. We're not related. We never were. And somewhere deep down, I think you both know it. My mother's face crumbled. How dare you? No, how dare you? I stood Marcus rising with me. How dare you spend 28 years letting her torture me, telling me I was the problems making me feel worthless, and now you want me to risk my life for someone who isn't even my family. A family isn't just blood. My mother shrieked, mascara streaming. It's love, it's choice, it's honesty, I finished, and you've been lying to me my entire life. My father stood abruptly, his chair scraping. We've protected you from the truth for too long, he said quietly. The coffee shop seemed to hold its breath. My mother grabbed his arm. Richard, no. He shook her off. No, Beth, I'm tired. Tired of the lies, tired of the pretense, tired of watching you destroy one daughter to save another. What truth? My voice barely qualified as a whisper. But he was already walking away, my mother scrambling after him. At the door, he turned back. Ask your grandmother. If you really want to know, ask Dorothy. She tried to warn us years ago. We should have listened. They left me standing there. Marcus's arms the only thing keeping me upright. Around us, the coffee shop slowly returned to normal, pretending they hadn't just witnessed a family implode. What just happened? I asked Marcus. I think, he said slowly, your father just confirmed there's more to this story. Much more. My phone buzzed. Dr. Chen, Katrina, I've been contacted by your parents' attorney. They're demanding all test results be sealed. This is highly unusual. Please be careful. Careful. As if careful had ever protected me from my family's dysfunction. As if careful could help me understand how my entire life had been built on a foundation of lies. Marcus drove me home in silence, letting me process. But how do you process learning that your sister isn't your sister? That your parents have been lying for decades? That your father just admitted to protecting me from some truth he's now too tired to hide? That night, as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, one thought kept circling. If Lauren and I weren't biological sisters, then who was I? Where did I come from? And why had my parents spent 28 years pretending otherwise? Tomorrow, I would visit my grandmother. Dorothy, locked in her nursing home with her failing memory, apparently held the key to my identity. But tonight, I mourned the loss of the life I thought I'd lived, the family I thought I had, the truth I thought I knew. Because sometimes the most painful discoveries aren't about what we've lost, but about what we never had in the first place. And I was beginning to understand that everything I believed about myself was built on a lie my parents were too exhausted to maintain. The truth was coming, whether I was ready or not. The next morning felt different. Armed with my father's cryptic admission, I had a mission that didn't involve guilt or medical tests. I needed answers, and I knew exactly where to start looking. My parents' house sat empty at 10 in the morning. They'd be at the hospital with Lauren maintaining their bedside vigil. I still had my key from high school, though using it felt like trespassing on my own history. The house smelled the same, my mother's lavender potpourri mixed with my father's old spice. Photo walls lined the hallway, Lauren's achievements prominently displayed, while my college graduation photo sat partially hidden behind a lamp. Even now, even with everything crumbling, the hierarchy remained. I headed straight for the basement. My father's domain had always been off limits, his home office sacred territory we weren't allowed to enter. A man needs his space, my mother would say, shooing us away from the door. Now I understood he might have needed more than space. He might have needed a place to hide the truth. The office was meticulously organized just like Richard Anderson himself. Tax returns filed by year, bank statements in color-coded folders, everything in its place except for the family history that didn't add up. I started with the filing cabinets, working methodically through decades of documentation. Birth certificates in the top drawer mine showed Katrina Marie Anderson born at Riverside General. Lauren's was notably absent. Marriage certificate, mortgage papers, insurance documents. All the paperwork of a normal life, but something was missing. The locked cabinet in the corner had taunted me since childhood. Dad wore the key on his keychain, but I'd learned lockpicking from YouTube videos during a particularly boring winter break. The skill came in handy now as I worked the mechanism, feeling pins click into place. The drawer slid open with a grinding protest. Inside manila folders lay stacked with precise labels: Lauren, medical; Lauren, school; Lauren, legal. And at the bottom, a thicker folder marked Adoption, 1996. My hands shook as I pulled it out. Inside, official-looking documents bore the seal of the state of Oregon. Petition for adoption of minor child. Lauren Michelle Kozlov, age 3, to be adopted by Richard and Elizabeth Anderson. Kozlov, Lauren's original surname was Kozlov. I sank onto my father's desk chair, pages spreading before me like puzzle pieces. Born to Marina Kozlov, father unknown. Marina's rights terminated due to persistent substance abuse and child endangerment. 3-year-old Lauren had been in foster care for 6 months before my parents applied to adopt. A psychological evaluation was paperclipped to the adoption decree. Child displays signs of reactive attachment disorder. Recommend intensive therapy and consistent boundaries. Tendency toward manipulation and aggression with other children requires immediate intervention. They'd known. From the very beginning, they'd known Lauren had serious issues, and they'd chosen to ignore every professional recommendation. But that wasn't the biggest shock. At the bottom of the folder, I found a letter dated 2 years after the adoption. My mother's handwriting addressing someone named Patricia. "We can't thank you enough for this miracle. After the heartbreak with Lauren's challenges, we'd given up hope of having another child. Your gift has completed our family. We've decided to name her Katrina after Richard's grandmother. She's perfect." Another child. Me. But this letter made it sound like I was also adopted, just differently. Privately, perhaps I photographed every document with my phone before digging deeper into the cabinet. A second folder, unlabeled, contained more correspondence. Letters from a woman named Katrina Summers, all returned unopened. The return address was in California, and the date started when I would have been 6 months old. "Please," one envelope had scrawled on the outside in desperate handwriting, "I just want to know she's okay." My breath caught. Katrina Summers. I'd been named after someone, but who? The final folder made everything clear. Private adoption agreement. Katrina Summers, age 16, relinquishing parental rights to baby girl Summers, born January 15th. My birthday. The adoptive parents, Richard and Elizabeth Anderson, who agreed to send annual updates that apparently never got sent. I was the adopted one. But more than that, I'd been adopted from a teenage mother who'd tried to stay in contact, who'd written letters for years that my parents never opened, who'd named me originally only for my parents to keep that name like some kind of trophy. A photo fell from between pages. A young girl, barely more than a child herself, holding a newborn. She had my eyes, my hair, my chin. On the back, Sarah and me, 1 hour old. "I love you forever, baby girl." Sarah. My birth name had been Sarah. Footsteps creaked overhead. I froze, then frantically started replacing folders. The basement door opened. Katrina." My father's voice drifted down. "I know you're down there," the neighbor called. Caught. I grabbed the most important documents and photos, shoving them into my purse before climbing the stairs to face him. He stood in the kitchen looking older than his 58 years. "Find what you were looking for." "You mean the truth you've been hiding for 28 years? "Yeah, I found some of it." He slumped into a kitchen chair. "We were going to tell you when you were older." Then older came and went, and the lie had grown too big to unravel. "So you just let me grow up thinking Lauren was my biological sister. Let me take her abuse while knowing she had documented psychological problems. Let me believe I was the problem. Your mother, she believed love could fix Lauren, that if we just tried hard enough, gave her enough attention, she'd heal from whatever happened in her early years. And when that didn't work, you let her take it out on me." He met my eyes then, and I saw shame mixed with exhaustion. We thought if Lauren felt secure in being the special one, the chosen one, she'd stop lashing out. We told her the truth when she was 13 that she was adopted, but you weren't. We thought it would help her understand how much we wanted her. You told her I was your biological child. No wonder she hated me. No. He slammed his hand on the table. That's what we told her, but it wasn't true either. You're adopted too, just differently. Your mother couldn't have children. We adopted Lauren first then, when a private adoption opportunity came up through your mother's cousin Patricia. We took it. You. From a 16-year-old named Katrina Summers. His face went white. You found the letters. Letters you never opened. Letters from my birth mother that you ignored for years. My voice rose with each word. Did you ever send her updates like you promised? Did you ever let her know I was alive and healthy? Your mother felt it was better for a clean break. My mother? Which one? The one who gave birth to me at 16 and tried to stay in touch, or the one who spent 28 years enabling a sociopath while making me feel worthless? He flinched. Don't call your sister that. She's not my sister. I pulled out the psychological evaluation. She was diagnosed with serious issues before you ever brought her home. Issues you ignored. And when your perfect love didn't magically cure her, you sacrificed me to manage her mental illness. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Dad? The word tasted bitter now, because from where I'm standing, it looks like you adopted a troubled child, realized you were in over your heads, adopted me as some kind of do-over baby, then threw me under the bus when Lauren couldn't handle not being the only child anymore. He stared at the table, unable to deny it. Your mother's at the hospital. She doesn't know you found all this. It would kill her. Like finding out my whole life is a lie is killing me. Katrina, please. Lauren's dying. Whatever mistakes we made, she's still dying. Can't we deal with this after... After what? After I've ruined my health, donating an organ to someone I'm not even related to. After you've guilted me into risking my life for the child you chose while ignoring the one you promised to love. I stood clutching my purse with its stolen evidence. I'm done protecting your secrets. Done being the scapegoat. Done pretending we're a family when we're just a group of people held together by lies. Where are you going? To find out who I really am, and Dad tell Mom her prayer vigils won't change DNA. Lauren and I aren't sisters, and no amount of denial will make it true. I left him sitting at the kitchen table, surrounded by the ghosts of 28 years of deception. Outside, the California sunshine felt like freedom. I had names now. Katrina Summers, Marina Kozlov, pieces of a puzzle I'd never known existed. But more importantly, I had proof. Proof that my parents had knowingly brought a damaged child into their home, ignored professional advice, and then used their second adopted child, me, as a buffer for her dysfunction. They'd known the truth all along and chosen lies instead. As I drove away, my phone buzzed with texts from Marcus. I pulled over to call him, needing his steady presence. I found everything, I said without preamble. Adoption papers, psychological evaluations, letters from my birth mother. Both Lauren and I are adopted, but from different families. They've known all along. Jesus, Kat, are you okay? Was I felt simultaneously shattered and liberated. I don't know, but I have a name, my birth mother's name. Katrina Summers from California. Do you want to find her? I looked at the photo still clutched in my hand, the teenage girl holding baby Sarah with such love and loss in her eyes. Yes, I need to know why she gave me up, and why she tried so hard to stay in touch when my parents promised updates they never sent. Come home. We'll figure it out together. And Kat, I'm proud of you. It takes courage to seek the truth when everyone around you is invested in lies. As I drove toward our apartment and away from the house of deceptions, I realized he was right. It did take courage. But maybe that's what I'd been building all these years, surviving Lauren's cruelty and my parents' neglect. The courage to finally say enough. The courage to find out who Sarah Summers was supposed to be before she became Katrina Anderson, the sacrificial lamb in a family built on secrets. The courage to discover that sometimes the family you're born into and the family that raises you are neither of them the family you're meant to have. And somewhere in California, a woman named Katrina Summers had been waiting 28 years to know if her baby girl was okay. It was time she got her answer. Whispering Pines. Nursing homes smelled of antiseptic and cafeteria food, the universal scent of places where people go to slowly fade away. My grandmother Dorothy had been here for 2 years, her sharp mind gradually clouded by dementia until my parents decided she needed full-time care, or perhaps they decided she needed to be silenced. I signed in at the front desk, noting that my parents hadn't visited in 3 weeks. The receptionist smiled kindly. She has good days and bad days. Today seems clearer than most. Dorothy sat by the window in her room, silver hair neatly braided, wearing the purple cardigan I'd given her 3 Christmases ago. She looked up when I entered, and for a moment, confusion flickered across her face. "Oh, Katrina." Her voice was papery thin but certain. "Little Katie." "Hi, Grandma." I pulled a chair close, taking her weathered hands in mine. "How are you feeling?" "Better now that you're here. You always were the sweet one. Not like—" She trailed off, eyes growing distant. "Not like Lauren?" Her face sharpened, decades falling away. "That child! I told Elizabeth not to bring darkness into their home. Some children are too broken to fix with love alone, but she wouldn't listen. Never did, even as a girl." "Grandma, Dad told me to ask you about the truth, about our family." Dorothy studied my face with eyes that seemed to see through time. "Richard finally grew a spine, did he? Only took 30 years. She squeezed my hands. "What do you want to know, dear one?" "Everything, starting with Lauren's adoption." She sighed deeply. "Elizabeth couldn't have children. 4 miscarriages, each one carving away another piece of her heart. Richard suggested they stop trying, maybe adopt, but she wanted her own baby so desperately it became an obsession. But they adopted Lauren. Eventually, after the fertility treatments failed and the specialists gave up hope, Marina Kozlov's rights were terminated, and they saw this beautiful 3-year-old girl in the foster system. Elizabeth fell in love with her picture, ignored every warning sign. "You met Marina." Dorothy's eyes flickered. "Once, during the trial to terminate her rights, broken woman destroyed by drugs and her own childhood trauma. She begged the judge to place Lauren with a family who understood psychological illness, said her own mother had been the same way, violent, manipulative, unable to form healthy attachments. Hereditary mental illness. 3 generations of it at least. But Elizabeth saw only a beautiful child who needed love. She convinced Richard they could save her." Dorothy shook her head. "Love can't cure what's written in the genes, Katie. I tried to tell them." "What happened after they brought Lauren home?" 6 months of honeymoon, then the mask slipped. She hurt the neighbor's cat, pushed another child off playground equipment, told elaborate lies about anyone who crossed her. The therapist said she showed signs of, what did they call it? Conduct disorder with callous traits, recommended intensive treatment, which my parents ignored. Elizabeth fired 3 therapists who told her things she didn't want to hear, said they were labeling a child unfairly. Meanwhile, Lauren learned exactly how to manipulate them. She'd hurt someone, then cry about being abandoned and unloved. Worked every time. Dorothy paused, staring out the window. For a moment, I feared she'd slipped away into the fog of dementia. Then she continued, voice stronger. "Oh, 2 years after Lauren came home, Patricia called. Your mother's cousin from church said she knew of a pregnant teenager who wanted a private adoption. Good girl from a good family who'd made one mistake. Katrina Summers." Dorothy's eyes widened. "You know about her?" I found documents. Dad had them locked away. Smart, beautiful girl, 16 years old, honor student, full scholarship to Berkeley waiting. But she'd fallen for an older boy who vanished the moment she told him about the pregnancy. Her parents wanted her to terminate, start fresh at college. She refused. So she contacted Patricia. Through her church, Patricia knew Elizabeth was desperate for a baby, a chance to prove she could be a good mother. Katrina interviewed them herself. Can you imagine? 16 years old, 8 months pregnant, interviewing prospective parents like she was hiring them. Dorothy smiled at the memory. She chose them, but with conditions. What conditions? She wanted updates, photos, letters about how her baby was doing. Not contact, just knowledge. And she wanted to name you. Sarah, after her grandmother who'd raised her when her own parents were too busy with careers. Elizabeth agreed to everything. But they named me Katrina instead. Elizabeth's idea said it would honor your birth mother while making you fully theirs. I think she was marking territory, claiming you. She was terrified Katrina would change her mind, come back for you. Did she try? Dorothy reached into her cardigan pocket, pulling out a small key. Third drawer of my dresser, under the photo albums. I saved what I could. My hands trembled as I found the drawer, lifting out albums until I felt an envelope beneath. Inside, photographs and letters my grandmother had somehow intercepted or copied. Pictures of a teenage girl with my face heavily pregnant, smiling bravely at the camera. Letters in neat handwriting. Please, Mrs. Anderson, just one photo. I'm not asking to see her. I just need to know she's okay. I'm starting Berkeley next month. I've decided to become a pediatric surgeon. I want to help children to honor the one I couldn't keep. It's Sarah's 2nd birthday today. I baked a cake and blew out the candles for her. I hope she's happy. Grandma, I whispered, tears streaming. She never forgot me. Elizabeth stopped opening them after the first year. Said it was unhealthy, that Katrina needed to move on, but that girl wrote faithfully for 5 years before giving up. I saved what I could without Elizabeth knowing. Why didn't you tell me? Dorothy's face crumpled. I tried, dear one. When you turned 18, I sat you down to explain everything. Elizabeth found us talking and went ballistic. Threatened to cut me off from both grandchildren if I ever mentioned it again. I was a coward. I chose access to you over truth. But you saved these. I knew someday you'd come asking. You're too smart to swallow their lies forever. Just like her Katrina, she saw through people asked hard questions. No wonder Elizabeth felt threatened. Tell me about when I was little, before they decided Lauren needed to be the favorite. Dorothy's expression softened. You were sunshine, Katie. Happy baby, curious toddler, always laughing. For 2 years, Elizabeth basked in being your mother. Finally had the baby she dreamed of, healthy, intelligent, affectionate. She paraded you at church like a prize. What changed? Lauren noticed. Started acting out more violently, broke your toys, pinched you when no one looked. The therapist said she was jealous that you represented everything she wasn't wanted for yourself, not as a project to fix. Elizabeth couldn't bear the thought that adopting Lauren had been a mistake. So she made me the mistake instead. Started small, taking Lauren's side in disputes, buying her special treats to help her feel secure. Then it escalated. By the time you were 5, the dynamic was set. Lauren was the troubled child who needed all the attention. You were the good one who could take care of herself. And Dad just went along with it? Dorothy's jaw tightened. Richard picks his battles, always has. Easier to appease Elizabeth than fight her. He'd sneak you treats, take you on special outings when she wasn't watching. Thought he was balancing things out, but children need protectors, not secret allies. He let her hit me yesterday when I said I wouldn't donate to Lauren. He let her do worse than that over the years. So did I, to my shame. We all failed you, Katie. Too afraid of Elizabeth's anger, too worried about keeping the peace. We sacrificed you to maintain the illusion of a happy family. A knock interrupted us. An aide peered in. Mrs. Anderson, time for your medications. While the aide helped Dorothy with her pills, I tucked the envelope of photos and letters into my purse. These fragments of my birth mother's love were more valuable than anything in my parents' house of lies. Grandma, I said as the aide left, I'm going to find her, Katrina, my birth mother. Dorothy gripped my hand with surprising strength. Good. That girl deserved better than my daughter's fear and jealousy. You both did. She reached up to touch my cheek. You have her eyes, you know, and her courage. Don't let Elizabeth steal any more of your life. I won't, I promise. One more thing, Dorothy's voice dropped to a whisper. Check Lauren's medical records carefully. Marina Kozlov had a sister who died young liver failure. Runs in their family. Elizabeth knows. Has known for years. The implications hit me like a physical blow. They knew Lauren might need a transplant someday. That's why they wanted another child. Not to complete their family, to create a spare parts supply. Dorothy's silence was confirmation enough. I kissed her goodbye, promising to visit again soon. But as I walked through the nursing home lobby, rage built in my chest like a living thing. They'd adopted me not as a daughter to love, but as potential organ storage for their troubled first adoption. When I'd proven too loved, too individual, too human to sacrifice easily, they'd systematically broken me down, hoping to create a person desperate enough for approval to give up pieces of herself. Literally. Outside, I called Marcus. I need you to find me the best private investigator you know. I'm finding my birth mother, and I'm doing it now. What did Dorothy tell you? Everything, including the fact that my parents have known all along that Lauren has hereditary liver disease. They didn't adopt me to be their daughter. They adopted me to be spare parts. The silence stretched long before Marcus spoke, his voice tight with controlled anger. Pack a bag. We're taking a trip to California. If Katrina Summers is out there, we'll find her together. What about Lauren? She's still dying. That's not your fault or your responsibility. Your parents created this situation through decades of lies and manipulation. Let them solve it with the truth for once. He was right. I'd spent 28 years trying to earn love from people who saw me as either competition for their damaged daughter or replacement parts for when she finally broke beyond repair. It was time to find the woman who'd loved baby Sarah enough to give her up, who'd written letters for years, hoping just to know I was okay. Time to discover who I might have been if I'd been raised by someone who'd wanted me for myself, not for what I could do for someone else. As I drove away from Whispering Pines, Dorothy's words echoed, "You have her eyes and her courage." I was about to find out if that was true. The bank manager, a middle-aged woman named Cheryl, looked at the key with recognition. "Oh, Dorothy Anderson's box. She's had that for decades. Just need to verify you're an authorized user." My heart sank. Of course, I wouldn't be authorized, but Cheryl was already typing, then smiling. Katrina Anderson, you were added 3 years ago, right after your 25th birthday, it seems. Grandmother had been planning ahead, preparing for this moment, even as dementia began its slow theft of her mind. She'd known someday I'd need the truth she'd been guarding. The safety deposit box was larger than I'd expected. Cheryl led me to a private viewing room, setting the metal container on the table with practiced care. "Take your time," she said kindly. "Ring when you're finished." Alone, I lifted the lid with trembling hands. Documents, photographs, and letters lay in neat stacks, each bundle tied with purple ribbon, Grandma's favorite color. A note on top in her shaky handwriting. "For Katie, when you're ready to know who you really are." The first bundle made my breath catch. Lauren's complete adoption file, far more extensive than what I'd found in Dad's cabinet. Page after page of psychiatric evaluations, social worker reports, court documents. The picture they painted was devastating. Marina Kozlov had been honest during the termination hearing. Her family carried a genetic predisposition to antisocial personality disorder, often triggered by childhood trauma. 3 generations of women who couldn't form healthy attachments, who viewed others as objects to manipulate. Marina's mother had died in prison. Her grandmother had been institutionalized. Uh, please, Marina had begged the court according to the transcript. Don't let her go to people who think love can fix this. She needs specialized help, structure, professionals who understand what she inherited from me. Instead, she'd gotten Elizabeth and Richard Anderson, who believed prayer and positive thinking could overcome genetics and severe attachment disorder. A psychiatric evaluation from Lauren's first year with my parents was brutal in its clarity. Child shows no empathy or remorse, deliberately harms others, then mimics appropriate emotional responses when caught. Extreme risk to any vulnerable individuals in household, particularly younger children. Strongly recommend against placing additional children in home until current child receives intensive therapeutic intervention. They'd ignored that recommendation and adopted me anyway. The second bundle contained my adoption records. 16-year-old Katrina Summers smiled from a photograph, radiantly pregnant despite her circumstances. School transcripts showed straight A's, National Honor Society, membership, early admission to Berkeley. Letters of recommendation praised her maturity, intelligence, and compassion. This young woman will make an exceptional doctor, one teacher wrote. Her decision to place her child for adoption shows wisdom beyond her years. She wants what's best for her baby, even at great personal cost. Her letter to my adoptive parents was heartbreaking. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, Patricia speaks highly of your faith and your desire to be parents. I'm not religious myself, but I respect those who are. What matters to me is that you'll love Sarah. I hope you'll keep the name as fiercely as I do. I'm not ready to be a mother. I'm barely 17 and I have dreams of medical school, of saving lives. But I already love this baby more than I thought possible. That's why I'm trusting you with her. All I ask is that you send updates, photos on her birthday, a letter about her milestones, not contact. I understand boundaries. I just need to know she's happy and healthy. Promise me you'll tell her someday that she was loved from the moment she existed, that giving her up was the hardest thing I've ever done, that I think about her every day. Thank you for giving her the life I can't provide right now. With hope, Katrina Summers. Elizabeth had annotated the margins. Too emotional. Might change her mind. Richard, should we reconsider? But they'd proceeded anyway, promising updates they never intended to send. The third bundle was the hardest to process. Reports from private investigators dated over several years. Dorothy had been tracking both Lauren's birth family and mine without telling anyone. Marina Kozlov had died when Lauren was 7, liver failure, just as Dorothy had mentioned. Her sister had died of the same condition at 32. Genetic testing available now would show Lauren carried the markers for the disease. My parents had this information when Lauren was 10. They'd known for 18 years that she would likely need a liver transplant. 18 years to plan, to save, to get Lauren on appropriate transplant lists. Instead, they'd waited hoping their backup plan me would be available when needed. But it was the investigation into Katrina Summers that shattered me completely. She'd kept her promise to become a doctor, graduated Berkeley summa cum laude, Harvard Medical School, residency at Johns Hopkins. Now at 44, she was the head of pediatric surgery at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles. She dedicated her life to saving other people's children. She'd never married, never had other children. The investigators' notes were clinical, but painted a picture of brilliant solitude. Work, homework again. Volunteering at teen pregnancy centers on weekends. Donating to adoption advocacy groups. The most recent report from just last year included a screenshot from a support group forum for birth mothers. 27 years, and I still celebrate her birthday alone. January 15th, she'd be finishing graduate school now, maybe starting a career. I imagine she has my eyes, but got her height from her father. I hope her parents told her she was loved. I hope she's happy. That's all I've ever wanted, for Sarah to be happy. I was sobbing now, clutching the papers. This woman, This accomplished, dedicated surgeon had spent 28 years wondering about me, loving a ghost, while I'd spent those same years being systematically devalued by people who'd promised to cherish me. The final document in the box was recent, a letter from Dorothy to me dated just after I'd started dating Marcus. My dear Katie, if you're reading this, I'm either gone or too lost in my own mind to tell you the truth myself. I've been a coward choosing family harmony over your well-being. I ask your forgiveness for that. Your birth mother is a remarkable woman who loved you enough to give you up. Your adoptive parents are broken people who love the idea of children more than the reality. Neither truth negates the other. Find Katrina Summers. She deserves to know that you grew up kind, intelligent, and strong despite everything. She deserves to see that her sacrifice created someone extraordinary. But more importantly, you deserve to know where you came from, to understand that you were wanted just not by the people who raised you. You were conceived in love, carried with hope, and given up with more pain than a 16-year-old should bear. Don't let Elizabeth's poison convince you otherwise. You were never meant to be spare parts for Lauren. You were meant to be exactly who you are, a doctor's daughter who inherited her mother's brilliant mind and generous heart. Find your true family, Katie. It's not too late. All my love, Grandma Dorothy. I sat in that sterile bank room for another hour, photographing every document, memorizing every detail. By the time I emerged, I knew what I had to do. Marcus was waiting in the parking lot, engine running. How bad was it? They knew everything. About Lauren's genetic illness, about her psychiatric problems, about my birth mother trying to stay in contact. They made every wrong choice possible. I showed him the photo of teenage Katrina. She's a pediatric surgeon at Cedars-Sinai now. Never married, never had other kids. He studied the photo, then my face. You have the same smile, same eyes, hell, same stubborn chin. He navigated toward the freeway. So, Los Angeles. You're sure about this? Taking time off work, dropping everything? Kat, I've watched your family destroy you for 2 years. If finding your birth mother helps you heal from their damage, then we're going to California. Today. Right now. I don't even know if she'll want to meet me. I'm not the baby she gave up anymore. I'm this broken person who... Stop. His voice was firm. You're not broken. You're a survivor of systematic emotional abuse who's finally learning the truth about her life. Any woman who spent 28 years wondering about her baby will want to meet the incredible person you've become. As we drove south, leaving Oregon and its lies behind, I thought about names. Sarah Summers, the baby who was loved and given away. Katrina Anderson, the child who was collected and discarded. And whatever name I'd choose for myself after I met the woman who'd loved me first and longest. The safety deposit box had given me more than documents. It had given me proof that I'd been wanted once, that someone had fought for me, grieved for me, celebrated my existence from afar for almost 3 decades. Now it was time to close that distance. Time to tell Dr. Katrina Summers that Sarah was finally coming home. The drive to Los Angeles took 12 hours. Marcus and I switched off, stopping only for gas and drive-through coffee. I spent my passenger shifts researching Dr. Katrina Summers, building a portrait of the woman who'd given birth to me at 16. Her professional biography was impressive. Undergraduate at Berkeley in 3 years. Harvard Medical School at 21. Youngest chief of pediatric surgery in Cedars-Sinai's history at 38. Published papers on innovative surgical techniques for children with liver disease, a bitter irony that wasn't lost on me. But it was the personal details that made her real. A blog post from a colleague mentioned her tradition of bringing homemade cookies to night shift nurses. A medical journal interview quoted her philosophy: "Every child I operate on is someone's entire world. I never forget that responsibility." A charity newsletter featured her volunteer work at New Beginnings, a support center for pregnant teenagers. The photo showed her sitting cross-legged on the floor, teaching young mothers-to-be about prenatal nutrition. Her smile was warm but tinged with sadness I now understood. She never stopped trying to help girls like herself, I murmured, showing Marcus the article. Or maybe she never stopped trying to help you in the only way she could. We reached Los Angeles at sunset, the city sprawling before us in golden light. I'd booked a hotel near the hospital, needing time to prepare before attempting contact. But as we checked in, exhaustion hit me like a wave. The emotional toll of the past week, the pressure to donate, discovering the lies, finding the documents, crashed over me all at once. Marcus ran me a hot bath while I sat on the hotel bed staring at my phone. 43 missed calls from my parents, 18 from various relatives, 6 from numbers I didn't recognize. I deleted the voicemails without listening. There was one text from my father. Dorothy had an episode, keeps asking for you, says she gave you something important. So they knew I'd visited her. Good. Let them wonder what else I'd discovered. The next morning, I dressed carefully, professional but not intimidating, the kind of outfit a birth mother might hope to see her daughter wearing. Marcus offered to come, but this felt like something I needed to do alone. Cedars-Sinai's pediatric surgery department occupied the 7th floor. The elevator ride felt both endless and too quick. At the reception desk, I stammered, "I'm looking for Dr. Katrina Summers. I don't have an appointment, but it's personal." The receptionist looked sympathetic but firm. "Dr. Summers is in surgery until this afternoon. Would you like to leave a message?" Before I could respond, a familiar voice spoke behind me. "I'm Dr. Summers. How can I help you?" I turned slowly, my prepared words evaporating. She was smaller than I'd expected, wearing surgical scrubs and a white coat. But the face, it was like looking in a mirror aged 16 years into the future. Same green eyes, same sharp cheekbones, same auburn hair, though hers was shot with premature silver. She went very still, studying my face with the intensity of someone who'd memorized every possible variation of a dream. Her hand rose unconsciously to her throat. Sarah." The word was barely a whisper. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. "Oh my God!" Her composure cracked completely. "Oh my God, Sarah. Actually, they called me Katrina after you, but my name was Sarah first." She made a sound between a laugh and a sob. There's a conference room, please." She led me with shaking hands to a small room, closing the door before turning to face me fully. "I'm sorry, I'm not usually. I've imagined this moment 10,000 times, but I never thought, how did you find me?" It's a long story, a complicated story, my adoptive parents. I stopped, unsure how to summarize 28 years of dysfunction. "Are they good to you? Are you happy?" The questions tumbled out desperately. I tried to pick the right family. Patricia said they were wonderful, stable, wanting children so badly. Did they love you? The truth would hurt her, but she deserved it. They adopted another daughter 2 years before me, a troubled child who needed more than they could give. I became secondary, expendable. Her face crumpled. No, that's not. I researched them. They seemed perfect. Church-going, financially stable, desperate for a baby. She sank into a chair. "What did they do to you?" "So," I told her. Sitting across from the woman who'd love me enough to give me up, I laid out the whole ugly truth. Lauren's abuse, my parents' neglect, the pressure to donate, the discovery that both Lauren and I were adopted, the revelation about their plan to use me as spare parts. With each word, she seemed to age. Tears streamed silently down her face, but she didn't interrupt. When I showed her the letter she'd written to my parents, the one begging them to send updates, she broke completely. "I wrote every month for 5 years, she sobbed. Birthday cards, Christmas cards, letters asking if you were walking, talking, thriving. They never responded. Not once. Patricia said they were private people, that you were doing wonderfully, but they felt contact would be confusing. My grandmother saved some of your letters. That's how I found you. She kept the truth for 28 years, waiting for me to be ready to hear it. 28 years. She wiped her face with shaking hands. Do you know how many children I've operated on? Thousands, and with every single one I wondered if they were your age, if you were healthy, if you ever thought about me. I didn't know you existed until this week. They told me I was their biological daughter until the DNA test proved otherwise. DNA test. I explained about Lauren's liver failure, the pressure to donate, the compatibility testing that revealed the truth. With each detail, her expression shifted from grief to anger to something harder. They wanted you to donate to a child they knew had genetic liver disease without telling you the truth about anything? She stood abruptly, pacing. That's not just unethical, it's criminal. Medical coercion, withholding critical information I could have there. She stopped. I'm sorry. You don't need me to be angry. I don't know what you need from me. I need to know why, I said quietly. Why you gave me up. Why you picked them. Why you tried so hard to stay in contact when it would have been easier to forget. She sat back down closer this time. I was 16, straight A student with a full scholarship to Berkeley waiting. Your father, God, I haven't thought about him in years. He was 22, a teaching assistant in my AP chemistry class, so handsome and smart and interested in me. I thought it was love. What happened? What always happens when older men pursue teenage girls. The moment I told him I was pregnant, he vanished, transferred schools, changed his number, left me to face my parents' disappointment alone. They wanted you to terminate. They wanted me to have the future they'd sacrificed to give me. Both doctors themselves, they saw pregnancy as a solvable problem. But the moment I felt you move... She reached out tentatively, then pulled back. May I? I nodded. Her hand touched my face gently, as if I might disappear. You were so active. Constant kicks and rolls like you were dancing. I'd lie in bed talking to you, telling you about all the things we'd do together, even though I knew I couldn't keep you. I loved you so much it physically hurt. Then why? Because love isn't just holding on. Sometimes it's letting go. Her thumb wiped a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. I could have kept you, raised you in my parents' house while finishing high school, brought you to college, juggled you between classes and studying. It was possible. But what kind of life would that have been for you? A life with someone who wanted me. Oh, sweet girl. She pulled me into a hug that felt like coming home. I wanted you more than breath. But wanting and doing what's best aren't always the same thing. I wanted to be a doctor to help children. How could I do that while being a child myself with a baby? We stayed like that, holding each other while 28 years of separation dissolved. When we finally pulled apart, both our faces were wet. I made the wrong choice, she whispered. I should have kept you, should have found a way. Then you wouldn't have suffered. You were 16, I interrupted. You made the best decision you could with the information you had. How could you know they'd lie, that they'd adopt another child with severe problems, that they'd use me as, I couldn't finish, as spare parts for their chosen daughter? Her voice turned steel. I've worked in pediatric medicine long enough to recognize parental pathology. They collected children like accessories, didn't they? One to fix, one to use. That's exactly it. And when I couldn't be used, they tried to break me into compliance. She stood again, this time with purpose. Are you safe now? Do you have somewhere to stay? Someone who treats you well? My boyfriend Marcus, he drove me here, supported me finding you, and I have my own apartment, a job, a life separate from them. Good. She checked her watch, then smiled sheepishly. I'm supposed to be in surgery in an hour, but I can cancel. No, don't. Those children need you. We have time now. All the time stolen from us, we can take it back. You're staying in LA for how long? As long as it takes, as long as you'll have me. Forever then. The words came out fierce. I've waited 28 years to know you. Sarah, do you prefer Katrina? I don't know yet. I'm figuring out who I am when I'm not trying to earn love that was never available. Then we'll figure it out together. She pulled out her phone. Give me your number, your email, your address, everything. I'm never losing contact with you again. As we exchanged information, I felt something shift inside me, a loosening of bonds I hadn't realized were strangling me. This woman, this accomplished surgeon who'd been a frightened teenager, had loved me without conditions or expectations for nearly 3 decades. That love had survived distant silence and unanswered letters. I have surgery then rounds, but I'll be done by 6. Would you and Marcus like to have dinner? I want to meet the man who brought you back to me. We'd love that. She hugged me again at the door, holding on like she had 28 years ago when she'd had to let go. I have so many questions, so much to tell you, photos to show you, stories about your biological grandparents, your heritage. You have cousins. Did you know my sister had 2 kids? They'd love to meet you. Family, real family who might actually want to know me. Katrina, Mom. The word felt foreign, but right. Can I ask you something? Anything. My adoptive sister is dying. They wanted me to donate part of my liver, but we're not compatible. I feel guilty for being relieved. Does that make me a terrible person? She cupped my face in both hands. Listen to me. You owe nothing to people who hurt you, blood or not. Your body is yours. Your life is yours. The guilt you feel, that's their voice in your head, not your truth. A terrible person wouldn't feel guilty at all. They'll never forgive me. Maybe that's their loss, not yours. She smiled sadly. I learned something giving you up, Sarah. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. Sometimes staying hurts everyone more. As I left the hospital, I felt lighter than I had in years. My birth mother was everything my adoptive parents weren't accomplished, honest, capable of unconditional love. She'd built a life of service from the pain of loss. She'd never stopped loving the baby she'd named Sarah. That night at dinner, watching her and Marcus discuss medical advances and laugh over shared stories, I began to understand what family was supposed to feel like. No guilt, no manipulation, no impossible expectations or manufactured emergencies. Just 3 people choosing to be together, building something new from the ashes of old pain. My phone buzzed with another message from my adoptive mother. Lauren's condition is deteriorating. Whatever game you're playing ends now. Come home. I showed it to Katrina. I was already thinking of her as my real mother. She read it and shook her head. You are home, sweetheart. It just took you 28 years to find it. She was right. Los Angeles, with its smog and traffic and endless possibilities, felt more like home than Oregon ever had. Because home isn't where you're from. It's where you're wanted. The offices of Hartley Investigations occupied a nondescript building in downtown Los Angeles, the kind of place you'd walk past without noticing. Marcus had found them through a colleague whose adopted son had successfully reunited with birth siblings. Best in the business, he'd assured me, discreet, thorough, and ethical. James Hartley himself met us in the conference room, mid-50s, silver-haired, with the kind of quiet confidence that came from decades of uncovering buried truths. He listened without interruption as I laid out everything, the recent revelations, the documents from Dorothy's safety deposit box, my successful reunion with Katrina. Yeah, you've done most of the work already, he said when I finished. But there are gaps, questions that need answers. You want to know the full scope of your parents' deceptions. I want to understand why, I clarified, why adopt 2 damaged children because I was damaged 2 stolen from my mother and then pit us against each other? Why keep Lauren when she showed violent tendencies? Why adopt me if they knew she'd hurt me? Hartley nodded thoughtfully. In my experience, people rarely have single motivations. Your adoptive parents' choices likely stemmed from multiple factors: inability to conceive religious beliefs about saving children's psychological needs of their own. He pulled out a legal pad. Let's start with what we know and work backward. Over the next 2 hours, we constructed timelines. Lauren's adoption in 1996, my birth and adoption in 1998, the escalating dysfunction, the suppressed medical information, the ignored letters from Katrina. This pattern of withholding medical information is particularly troubling, Hartley noted. They knew about Lauren's genetic predisposition to liver disease. Did they inform her doctors, get her preventative treatment? I thought back through my childhood. She saw doctors, but my parents always went alone to appointments, said Lauren was sensitive about her privacy. More likely, they were controlling the narrative, making sure no one looked too closely at the family dynamic. He made another note. I'd like to investigate the adoption agency that handled Lauren's case. If they knew about the genetic issues and psychiatric evaluations, your parents may have committed fraud to complete the adoption. Would that matter now? It establishes a pattern of deception. Also, if Lauren's birth family has other living relatives, they deserve to know about her condition. There may be genetic information that could help with treatment. The thought hadn't occurred to me. Lauren might have biological relatives who could be donors, people she was actually related to whose organs wouldn't face the compatibility issues mine did. Can you find them? Marina Kozlov died years ago, but she may have had siblings, cousins, extended family. Immigration records show the Kozlovs came from Ukraine in the 1970s. Close-knit communities often mean traceable family networks. He assigned an associate to that search while focusing on deeper background into my adoptive parents. Within days, disturbing patterns emerged. Elizabeth Anderson had been in therapy throughout her 20s and early 30s for what records termed obsessive maternal ideation. She'd experienced phantom pregnancies, convinced herself she was carrying children that didn't exist. After the fourth miscarriage, her therapist recommended psychiatric evaluation, which she refused. She essentially therapist shopped until she found one who would support adoption without addressing her underlying issues. Hartley explained during our follow-up meeting, red flags everywhere that agencies should have caught. But private adoptions like mine bypassed many safeguards. Patricia, the church friend who'd connected them with teenage Katrina, had vouched for them based on friendship rather than fitness. No home studies, no psychological evaluations, just a desperate teenager and a couple who presented well on paper. The investigation into Lauren's adoption revealed worse. The agency had expressed serious concerns about placing a child with reactive attachment disorder in a home with inexperienced parents. My parents had hired a lawyer, threatened discrimination lawsuits, and pushed through the adoption anyway. They were warned repeatedly. Hartley showed me the documents. Social workers, therapists, even the foster family who'd cared for Lauren. Everyone said she needed specialized therapeutic parents. Your adoptive parents portrayed this as prejudice against adopted children. They wanted to be saviors, I murmured, prove that their love could fix what experts said was unfixable. Except when it didn't work, they needed someone to blame. Enter you the baby who was supposed to complete their family, but instead became the scapegoat for their failures with Lauren. Marcus squeezed my hand. We were learning this together, piecing together the dysfunction that had shaped my entire life. But Hartley's next revelation shook us both. I've found Lauren's biological family. Marina Kozlov had a younger brother, Dmitry. He lives in San Francisco, runs a restaurant. He's been searching for Lauren for 15 years. Searching, but parental rights were terminated. He was 19 when Marina lost custody, away serving in the military. By the time he returned and tried to get custody, Lauren was already adopted. He's been trying to find her ever since, hoping to at least provide family medical history. Hartley slid a photograph across the table. A man in his 40s with Lauren's dark hair and olive skin standing in front of a restaurant called Kozlov's Kitchen. He looked healthy, stable, nothing like the addiction-ravaged family story my parents had painted. He never knew she was sick. No idea. Your parents blocked all attempts at contact. But here's the significant part: he's already registered as a living donor. His daughter needed a kidney 5 years ago. He was a match, but she received a deceased donor organ before his was needed. He's maintained his status on the registry ever since. He could save Lauren. Possibly, if he's compatible, if he's willing to donate to a niece he's never met, if your adoptive parents allow it. That was the crux, wasn't it? My parents had spent decades hiding Lauren's origins, painting her birth family as irredeemably damaged. Admitting the truth now would mean acknowledging their lies. There's one more thing, Hartley said carefully, about your birth father. I'd almost forgotten that piece of the puzzle. The 22-year-old teaching assistant who'd seduced 16-year-old Katrina then vanished. His name was David Chen. He's now a chemistry professor at UC San Diego, married 3 kids. By all accounts, a respectable family man who's never acknowledged his past. Does he know about me? Unknown. He transferred schools immediately after Katrina informed him of the pregnancy. Whether from shame, fear, or family pressure, he completely severed contact. Another coward, another person who'd chosen self-preservation over responsibility. I felt no desire to know him further. Send everything about Dmitry Kozlov to Lauren's doctors, I decided, anonymously if necessary. Let them figure out how to navigate my parents' resistance. He deserves the chance to save his niece, and she deserves the chance to live. Hartley nodded approvingly. And your adoptive parents? Send them everything else. Every document, every lie, every warning they ignored. They've hidden behind their false narrative long enough. As we prepared to leave, Hartley handed me one final folder. This came in this morning, security footage from the hospital the day you were born. I thought you might want it. That evening in our hotel room, Marcus and I watched grainy footage of 16-year-old Katrina in a hospital bed, cradling newborn me. Even in the poor quality video, her love was visible. The way she touched my face, counted my fingers, whispered words the camera couldn't catch. A nurse approached with papers, the adoption forms. Katrina signed with shaking hands, then held me closer as if memorizing every detail. When they came to take me, she kissed my forehead and said something. Marcus rewound, trying to read her lips. I love you, Sarah, forever. 28 years later, she'd kept that promise. My phone rang, an unknown Oregon number. Katrina Anderson. The voice was professional, clinical. This is Dr. Morrison at Sacred Heart. Your sister's condition has deteriorated significantly. We've received information about a potential living donor match, her biological uncle. Were you aware she had living relatives? I recently discovered it, yes. Your parents are resistant to pursuing this option. As her sister, your input could be valuable in convincing them. Time is critical. I'm not her sister, I said firmly. We're both adopted from different families, and my parents' resistance stems from decades of lies they don't want exposed. But Dmitry Kozlov deserves the chance to save his niece, and Lauren deserves the chance to live. I see. A pause. Would you be willing to speak with Mr. Kozlov? He's already en route from San Francisco. The universe seemed determined to untangle every thread of my parents' deceptions. Give him my number. I'll tell him everything I know. After I hung up, Marcus held me close. You did the right thing. Did I? I just destroyed their carefully constructed reality. No, babe. They destroyed it the day they chose lies over truth. You're just refusing to enable it anymore. He was right. The truth was messier than their fiction, but ultimately kinder. Dmitry might save Lauren. Katrina had already saved me. And somewhere in Oregon, 2 people who'd spent decades manipulating reality were learning that love built on lies always crumbles eventually. But from those ruins, something real could grow. I was proof of that. Found by the mother who'd never stopped looking, held by the man who'd driven me toward truth, I was finally becoming who I was meant to be. Not Katrina Anderson, the manufactured daughter. Not Sarah Summers, the ghost of sacrifice. But someone new. Someone whole. Someone free. The call from Dmitry Kozlov came at 7 the next morning. His voice carried a slight accent and tremendous emotion. "Miss Anderson, I am told you know where my sister's daughter is, that she is sick, that you have information." "Mr. Kozlov, it's complicated. Can we meet? I'm in Los Angeles, but—" "I am driving there now. The hospital gave me your number, said you could explain. Please, I have waited 15 years to find Marinka's baby." Marinka, Lauren had a Russian nickname, a whole identity my parents had erased. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop near Cedar Sinai. I asked Katrina to join us, wanting my birth mother's medical perspective and emotional support. She agreed immediately, rearranging her surgical schedule. "Of course I'll be there. This is about family, all the complicated forms it takes." Dmitry Kozlov looked like an older masculine version of Lauren. Same dark hair, same olive complexion, same intense brown eyes. But where Lauren's features had always seemed sharp with manipulation, his conveyed genuine warmth despite obvious exhaustion. "You are the sister," he studied my face. "But you look nothing like Marinka's child should look." "That's because I'm not her biological sister. We're both adopted. My parents—" I struggled for words to explain decades of deception. "They collected us, lied to us, made us believe we were biological siblings." His face darkened. "They lied about family." In his cultural context, I could see how this betrayal hit differently. I introduced Katrina, explaining our relationship. Dmitry's eyes widened. "So you were also taken from your mother? Both daughters stolen." "I wasn't stolen," I clarified quickly. "My birth mother chose adoption, but Lauren, your niece, that's more complicated?" I showed him the documents Hartley had uncovered, his sister's struggle with addiction, the court proceedings, the warnings about genetic mental health issues. His hands shook as he read. "Marina was sick, yes, our mother too, but this does not mean they did not love. Marina loved her baby fiercely. The drugs were to quiet the voices, the pain. If she had gotten proper help instead of jail. You tried to get custody." "I was young soldier, unmarried. They said I was unfit, that Marinka needed American family stable home. I believed them." His voice turned bitter. "I thought they would let me visit, stay in contact. Instead, they disappeared her." Katrina leaned forward. "Mr. Kozlov, your niece needs a liver transplant. You're potentially compatible as her biological uncle. Are you willing to be tested?" "Willing, I would give my life for Marina's child. But these people who stole her, who lied, they will allow this." That was the question. My phone had been buzzing all morning with increasingly frantic messages from my parents. They knew about Dmitry. They knew their secrets were unraveling. Their carefully maintained fiction was collapsing. We need to go to them, I decided. All of us. Force them to face the truth. "I'll come too," Katrina said firmly. "As a doctor and as your mother, I have things to say to these people." The drive to Oregon took 2 days. Dmitry followed in his car while Katrina rode with Marcus and me. We used the time to share stories, piecing together the full picture of our fractured family tree. Dmitry told us about Marina, brilliant but troubled hearing voices by age 15, self-medicating with alcohol and drugs, having Lauren at 19 with a man who disappeared immediately after. She tried to be good mother. For 3 years she fought the illness, but without support, without help, she broke. The day they took Marinka, she screamed that the angels were punishing her. Maybe they were. Katrina shared her own story, the promising student derailed by an older man's attention, the months of hiding pregnancy from everyone but her parents, the moment of decision. "I could have ended up like Marina," she said quietly, "young, overwhelmed, alone, but I had resources she didn't. parents who, despite their anger, got me prenatal care and counseling, options beyond keeping a baby I couldn't care for or losing her to the system. You were both children having children, Marcus observed. The difference was support versus judgment. Sacred Heart Hospital looked smaller than I remembered. Lauren's room was on the third floor, my parents maintaining their vigil. They didn't notice us at first, too focused on their dying daughter to register the footsteps. Then my mother looked up and saw me flanked by strangers. Her face went white. "Oh, Katrina, what are you? Who are these people?" "This is Dmitry Kozlov," I said steadily, "Lauren's biological uncle, and this is Dr. Katrina Summers, my birth mother." The words hung in the air like grenades. My father stood slowly positioning himself between the bed and us. "You need to leave, all of you. This is a family matter." "Yes," Dmitry stepped forward. "It is family matter. I am Marinka's family. You stole her from us. We adopted her legally." "You lied." His voice cracked. "You told courts we were unfit, dangerous. You promised she would have better life. Look at her." He gestured to Lauren's unconscious form, "dying of same disease that killed my sister because you were too proud to tell truth." My mother's composure shattered. "Don't you dare judge us. We saved her from a life of addiction and poverty. We gave her everything." "You gave her lies." Katrina interrupted, her doctor's authority cutting through. "You gave both girls lies and manipulation and conditional love based on impossible standards. I trusted you with my daughter. 16 years old and desperate, I believed you would cherish her. Instead, you turned her into a scapegoat for your failures with another damaged child." "How dare you!" "I dare because I've spent 28 years wondering if I made the right choice, crying on her birthday, writing letters you never opened." Katrina's voice rose. "You promised updates, photos, basic human decency to let a birth mother know her child was thriving. Instead, you erased me like I was nothing." My father tried diplomacy. "We thought a clean break was better." "Better for whom?" "Not for Sarah, sorry Katrina, who grew up feeling unwanted. Not for me, who spent decades in limbo. Certainly not for Lauren, who might have lived if you'd connected with her biological family's medical history." Dmitry had moved to Lauren's bedside, touching her hand gently. "She looks like Marina. Same face, same spirit, I think. Does she know about us?" "We told her she was adopted when she turned 13, my mother said defensively. "She didn't want to know more." "You told her she was thrown away," I corrected, "that her birth family was trash, that she was lucky we saved her. Of course, she didn't want to know more." Lauren stirred slightly at the voices. Her eyes fluttered open, focusing with difficulty on the stranger holding her hand. "Who?" "I am Dmitry," he said gently. "Marina's brother, your mother's brother. I have been looking for you, little Marinka." Confusion flickered across her face. Even dying, even faced with truth, she looked to our parents for cues on how to react. They'd trained her well. But something in Dmitry's face, the familiar features, the genuine emotion, made her pause. My mother's name was Marina. Yes, beautiful troubled Marina, who loved you more than life, who broke when they took you, who died believing she had failed you. They said she didn't want me. "Never," he said fiercely. "She wanted you so much she tried to get better. But the sickness in our family, in our blood, it was too strong without help." "Oh, what sickness?" My parents tried to interrupt, but Katrina blocked them. "Let him speak. She deserves the truth before it's too late." So Dmitry told Lauren about the women in their family, the voices that whispered lies, the impulses toward violence they couldn't control, the genetic predisposition that proper treatment might have managed. "You have this too, I think, but they did not get you help. Yes, just expected love to fix what medicine should treat." Lauren's face crumpled. For the first time in my memory, she looked genuinely vulnerable. "I hurt people. I've always hurt people. I can't stop myself." Because you are sick, not evil. Marina could not stop either until the end, but with help, it's too late, she whispered. I'm dying. The liver disease, also in our family, I know. I came to be tested, to give you part of mine if I match. He squeezed her hand. Family saves family, even family that was stolen. My mother made a choked sound. She's our daughter. We raised her. You failed her, Katrina said bluntly. Both of them. You collected damaged children like broken dolls, thinking you could glue them together with prayer and denial. When that didn't work, you pitted them against each other. That's not true. Isn't it? I stepped forward. You knew Lauren had violent tendencies. You knew she hurt me. You chose her every single time because admitting she was dangerous meant admitting you'd made a mistake adopting her. And rather than get her real help, Katrina continued, you brought in another child to absorb her violence, a baby you could mold into accepting abuse as normal. We loved them both. You loved the idea of them, Marcus interjected, surprising everyone. The idea of being savior parents. When reality didn't match your fantasy, you rewrote reality. Lauren watched this confrontation with sharp eyes despite her weakness. You knew, she asked my parents. You knew I was sick. They couldn't answer. The truth condemned them more than any accusation could. You let me think I was evil, she continued, voice gaining strength from anger. Let me hurt Katrina over and over because you couldn't admit I needed help. Do you know what it's like feeling like a monster, but not knowing why? Sweetheart, Don't. She turned to Dmitri. Tell me about my mother, my real mother. Tell me who I was supposed to be. As he spoke of Marina, artist dreamer fighter, I saw something shift in Lauren's face. Recognition, understanding, maybe even peace. The hospital social worker arrived, drawn by the raised voices. She took in the scene the biological uncle, the birth mother, the adoptive parents, the two adopted daughters, and made quick decisions. Mr. Kozlov, we need to start compatibility testing immediately if you're willing. The rest of you need to step outside while we handle consent forms. My parents protested but were overruled. Lauren was conscious and competent to make her own medical decisions. She chose to proceed with testing her uncle, effectively cutting them out of the process. In the hallway, my mother collapsed against my father. How could you do this to us? How could you do this to us? I countered. 28 years of lies, manipulation, guilt. You stole our identities, our histories, our chances at real relationships with biological family. We gave you good lives. You gave us trauma, Katrina said firmly, and now it ends. Dmitri will try to save Lauren because that's what real family does. I'm going to spend whatever time I have left making up for 28 stolen years with my daughter. And you get to live with the consequences of your choices. You're taking her from us, my mother's voice broke. No, I said quietly. You gave me away the day you decided Lauren's needs mattered more than my safety. I'm just making it official. Security arrived to escort us out. My parents had complained about disruptive visitors. As we walked through the lobby, I felt the last chains of obligation snap. Outside, Katrina pulled me into a fierce hug. I'm so proud of you, standing up to them, bringing Dmitri here, choosing truth over comfortable lies. What happens now? Now we see if Dmitri can save Lauren, if she'll accept help for her mental health, if your adoptive parents will finally face reality. She pulled back to look at me. But whatever happens, you have me. You've always had me even when you didn't know it. Marcus wrapped his arms around both of us. We should get a hotel. This could take days. As we drove away from the Sacred Heart, I thought about families. The one that raised me in dysfunction. The one I'd found in truth. The one Lauren might still build with the uncle who'd searched for 15 years. Sometimes love means holding tight. Sometimes it means letting go. And sometimes, like today, it means forcing everyone to stop pretending and face the messy, complicated, painful truth. Because only truth can set us free. The test results came back within 48 hours. Dmitry Kozlov was a match, not perfect, but viable. More importantly, his medical history revealed crucial information that changed everything. Dr. Chen called us all back to the hospital, his expression grave but hopeful. Mr. Kozlov's genetic screening has uncovered something significant. The liver disease that runs in your family, it's treatable if caught early, manageable with proper medication and monitoring. My mother's face went white. Treatable. The condition is called Wilson's disease. Genetic, yes. Fatal if untreated, yes. But absolutely manageable with zinc and chelation therapy. Had Lauren been diagnosed in childhood? He trailed off diplomatically. The silence that followed was deafening. Had Lauren been diagnosed in childhood, had my parents revealed her biological family's medical history, she might never have needed a transplant at all. You're saying, my father's voice cracked, we could have prevented this. With proper family history and genetic testing, yes. The symptoms Lauren exhibited, the behavioral issues, the mood instability, they're consistent with copper accumulation in the brain, a hallmark of Wilson's disease. Dmitry made a sound of pure anguish. Marina had this, the voices, the violence, it was disease. Very likely, psychiatric symptoms often present before liver involvement. Without treatment, patients self-medicate, exhibit antisocial behavior, struggle with impulse control. Everything clicked into place with horrible clarity. 3 generations of Kozlov women labeled as crazy, violent, addicted, all suffering from a treatable genetic condition that no one had diagnosed. Lauren's psychological issues, I said slowly, the attachment disorder diagnosis, may have been complicated by underlying Wilson's disease, Dr. Chen confirmed. Copper accumulation in the brain can cause personality changes, violence, inability to form normal attachments. Combined with early childhood trauma, it creates a perfect storm. My mother was sobbing, now the full weight of their choices crashing down. They'd hidden Lauren's biological history, refused genetic testing, ignored medical advice, all from pride and fear of admitting they'd adopted a child with serious issues. Can you still help her? Dmitry asked. With transplant and treatment? The transplant is more complex now. We need to start chelation therapy immediately to reduce copper levels before surgery. But yes, there's hope. More hope than we had before. Lauren had been awake for the conversation, listening with an expression I'd never seen before, understanding mixed with rage, mixed with grief. I wasn't evil, she whispered. I was sick. This whole time I was just sick. Marinka, Dmitry moved to her side, is not your fault, is not Marina's fault, is disease like diabetes or cancer, needs treatment, not shame. They knew, she said, louder eyes fixed on our parents. You knew I might be sick. You had the information. You could have tested me, treated me, helped me. Instead, you let me think I was a monster. We didn't know, my mother started. Stop lying, Lauren's voice cracked like a whip. You knew enough to hide it, knew enough to be afraid of what doctors might find. You chose your reputation over my health. And mine? I added quietly. You knew she was hurting me, knew it might be medical, did nothing because admitting she needed help meant admitting you'd failed. Dr. Chen intervened professionally. I need to speak with Lauren and Mr. Kozlov about the transplant procedure. The rest of you should take some time to process this information. We were dismissed, filing out like scolded children. In the hallway, my parents looked smaller, older, broken. The righteous certainty that had sustained them through decades of denial was gone. 23 years, my mother whispered. She's been sick for 23 years and we... You ignored it, Katrina said, but without heat. Even she seemed exhausted by the revelations. Just like you ignored my letters, just like you ignored Katrina's pain, you built a fantasy and sacrificed 2 daughters to maintain it. My father turned to me, tears streaming. Can you ever forgive us? The question I'd waited my whole life to hear, but now faced with the moment I felt only emptiness. I don't know, maybe someday, but forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending this didn't happen. We lost you. My mother reached for me, but I stepped back. We've already lost you. You lost me the day you chose Lauren's lies over my truth. Every time you let her hurt me, every time you called me jealous, difficult, selfish for wanting basic safety. I thought of Katrina's steady love, Marcus's unwavering support. But I've been found by people who actually know how to love. We left them there, two broken people surrounded by the wreckage of their choices. Katrina suggested lunch at a nearby restaurant, needing distance from the hospital's emotional chaos. I can't stop thinking about Marina Kozlov, she said over sandwiches none of us were eating, dying in her 20s from a treatable disease, losing her daughter to a system that saw addiction and mental illness as moral failings instead of medical conditions. 3 generations of women destroyed by one genetic mutation, Marcus added. How different would their lives have been with proper diagnosis? Lauren might have been a completely different person, I mused, without the copper poisoning her brain with proper treatment from childhood. She still would have had trauma from early abandonment, Katrina pointed out. But yes, she might have been able to form healthy attachments, learn empathy, live without the constant noise in her head driving her to violence. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This is Lauren. Got your number from Uncle Dimitri. Can we talk? Just us, no parents. I showed it to Katrina and Marcus. Should I? That's your choice, Katrina said carefully. You don't owe her anything even with this new information. But I was curious. This Lauren medicated facing truth connected to biological family was a stranger. After 28 years of careful distance, I wanted to know who she might have been. We met in the hospital cafeteria. She looked terrible, yellow-tinged and hollow-eyed, but alert in a way I'd never seen. Present. Real. I'm sorry, she said without preamble. Not the fake apologies Mom made me give. Real sorry for everything. I studied her looking for manipulation, found only exhaustion and something that might have been genuine remorse. The stairs. Your broken arm. I remember pushing you. Remember enjoying the sound when you fell, she shuddered. What kind of child enjoys that? A sick one, apparently. Yeah, she laughed bitterly. Turns out the voice telling me to hurt people wasn't my conscience or the devil or whatever bullshit Mom spouted, just copper eating my brain. Does that make it easier, having a medical explanation? She considered. Yes and no. I still did those things, still chose cruelty over and over. But maybe with treatment I can choose differently, if I survive. Uncle Dimitri seems confident. Uncle Dimitri, she shook her head wonderingly. I have an uncle who searched for me, who's giving me half his liver despite never meeting me. That's so weird. I have a birth mother who's a surgeon, who never stopped loving me. Weird seems to be our theme. We sat in awkward silence. 28 years of antagonism doesn't evaporate with one medical diagnosis. I hated you, she said finally. From the moment you came home, this perfect baby everyone cooed over while I was the damaged goods they were stuck with. They told you I was their biological child, made you feel replaced. It was more than that. You were easy to love, happy, sweet, normal, everything I couldn't be no matter how hard I tried. And the trying. God, the constant effort to appear human when inside I was screaming. So you made me scream too. Yeah, if I had to suffer, so did you. Fucked up logic of a fucked up kid with a fucked up brain. She met my eyes. I can't undo it. Any of it. But I need you to know it wasn't about you. It was never about you. You were just there, available, vulnerable. And our parents made sure I stayed vulnerable. They really fucked us both, didn't they? You by neglect me by enabling. Perfect storm of shitty parenting. I thought about Katrina choosing adoption to give me better than she could provide. About Dimitri searching 15 years for his vanished niece. About Dorothy saving documents for decades, hoping truth would eventually surface. We had people who tried to love us right. They were just blocked by the two who claimed to love us most. Lauren's transplant was scheduled for the following week. She started chelation therapy immediately, and within days a change was noticeable. Calmer, clearer. Still Lauren, but without the constant edge of barely contained violence. "It's quiet," she told me during one visit. "For the first time ever, my head is quiet. Is this how normal people feel all the time?" Dmitri donated 60% of his liver. The surgery took 12 hours. Katrina stayed with me in the waiting room, holding my hand as we watched the clock. "You don't have to be here," she said gently. "No one would blame you for staying away." "I know, but maybe this is how we end it, bearing witness to what should have happened years ago, biological family-saving family truth, replacing lies medicine, treating what prayer couldn't cure." The surgery was successful. Both Dmitri and Lauren came through, well, though recovery would be long. My parents haunted the hallways like ghosts, allowed to visit, but no longer in charge. Lauren had given medical power of attorney to her uncle, cutting them out of decisions. "Is fair," Dmitri told me during his recovery. "They had 23 years to make choices, made wrong ones. Now is my turn." He planned to move Lauren to San Francisco once she was stable, get her into therapy, continue her medical treatment, introduce her to what remained of the Kozlov family. "She needs to know who she is, where she comes from. Not the lies, but the truth, good and bad." "Will she stay in contact with our parents?" He shrugged. "Is her choice, but first she heals, body and mind. Then she decides who is family." Katrina had extended her leave to stay with me through the crisis. We spent hours talking, filling in 28 years of gaps. She showed me pictures from her life, graduations, achievements, always with a shadow of sadness. "Every milestone I thought of you, wondered if you were happy, if you'd graduated too, if you thought of me at all. I thought everyone had parents who loved their other child more, thought it was normal to be second best. You were never second best. You were stolen treasure hidden away by people who didn't recognize your value." She touched my face gently. "But I see it. Have always seen it." Marcus joined us for dinner most nights, the three of us building new rhythms. He and Katrina had developed their own relationship, bonding over their shared love for me and shared anger at my adoptive parents. "I keep thinking," he said one evening, "about nature versus nurture. Lauren inherited mental illness, but your parents' choices made it catastrophic. You inherited your mother's strength, but their treatment could have broken you." "Almost did," I admitted. "If I hadn't met you, if Grandma Dorothy hadn't saved those documents, if that DNA test hadn't revealed the truth." "But it did," Katrina said firmly. "Sometimes the universe conspires to reveal what needs revealing, even if it takes 28 years. A month after the transplant, I got another text from Lauren. She was living with Dmitri, now attending therapy 3 times a week, taking her medications religiously, learning to cook in his restaurant, meeting cousins who looked like her. "I'm not fixed," she wrote, "may never be, but I'm trying. Uncle D says trying is enough for now. P.S. Our parents called. I didn't answer. Not ready. May never be. That okay?" I wrote back, "More than okay. Healing isn't linear. Neither is forgiveness. Take your time." Because that's what we were all doing, taking time. Time stolen by lies, recovered in truth. Time to build real relationships with people who'd searched for us, fought for us, loved us from afar. Time to discover who we might have been all along if anyone had bothered to tell us the truth. 2 months after the transplant, Lauren asked to see me again. She was living in San Francisco now in an apartment above Dimitri's restaurant. The text was simple. "I need to tell you something in person, please." Katrina and Marcus both offered to come, but this felt like something I needed to do alone. The drive from Los Angeles took 6 hours' time to think, to prepare, to wonder what confession awaited me. Kozlov's kitchen sat in the Mission District, warm light spilling from its windows. Dmitri greeted me with a careful hug, his recovery evident in his restored energy. She is upstairs, nervous but determined. This is good step, I think. The apartment was small but welcoming, filled with photographs of the Kozlov family Lauren was slowly learning to claim. She sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of tea. The yellow tinge was gone from her skin, her eyes clearer than I'd ever seen them. "You came," she said simply. "You asked." "I've been remembering things in therapy. With the medication clearing my head, memories are surfacing. Things I buried or twisted to fit the story I told myself." She gestured to a chair. "EMDR therapy. Sounds like voodoo, but it works. Helps reprocess trauma, separate what really happened from the lies our brains tell us." I sat carefully, maintaining distance. Trust would take more than medical explanations and genuine apologies. "I told you I pushed you down the stairs when we were kids, that I enjoyed it." She stared into her tea. "That was true, but incomplete. I need to tell you what happened before. What made me so angry." "Okay." "That morning, I'd had another episode. Broke Mom's favorite vase during a rage I couldn't control. She actually yelled at me. Really yelled, not the fake disappointment she usually did. Said she was tired of my behavior, that maybe they'd made a mistake adopting me." My breath caught. Our mother had actually admitted that out loud. "Then you came downstairs." 7 years old, already dressed for school, hair in perfect pigtails. She lit up, literally transformed. Cooed over how responsible you were getting ready without being asked. Her good girl, her real daughter. "She didn't say that." "She did. Maybe she forgot after convinced herself it didn't happen, but I heard it. My real daughter wouldn't act like this. Like I was some counterfeit she'd been tricked into buying." The pieces clicked horribly into place. "So you pushed me." "I wanted to mar the perfection. Prove you weren't really better, just luckier. When you fell, when I heard that snap." She shuddered. "For a second, I was satisfied, then horrified. Then Mom came running and the horror got buried under survival. Lie. Blame you. Make it your fault. Patterns I'd follow for 20 years. Why tell me now?" "Because Dr. Martinez, my therapist, says accountability is part of healing, not the public apologies Mom used to force that meant nothing. Real acknowledgement of harm caused." She finally met my eyes. "I hurt you because I was hurt. That explains but doesn't excuse. You were a child. An innocent child I terrorized because our parents made me feel worthless. They made us both feel worthless, just differently." "No!" Her voice turned firm. "Don't minimize what I did by blaming them entirely. Yes, they created the dynamic, but I chose violence. Over and over, I chose to hurt rather than heal. That's on me." We sat in silence. Outside restaurant sounds drifted up, laughter. Clinking dishes, life continuing. "There's more," she said eventually, "about the liver donation pressure." What about it?" I was awake more than I let on, conscious when they'd discuss their plans. Mom would sit by my bed, strategizing how to guilt you into compliance. Prayer vigils, family pressure, public shaming. I could have stopped it, told them I didn't want your liver. But I didn't. Why? Because I was dying and scared, and still even then, jealous. You had everything: health, independence, a boyfriend who loved you. Part of me thought if I took your liver, I'd be taking some of that too. Like organ recipients who supposedly gain their donors' memories, she laughed bitterly. Magical thinking from a poisoned brain. But you knew it wouldn't work. We weren't compatible. I suspected. Different blood types for one thing, but I let them push because... She struggled for words. Because I wanted you to suffer like I was suffering. If I was dying, you should sacrifice something. Your health, your autonomy, your choice. One last act of violence disguised as family obligation. The honesty was brutal, also strangely healing. Better to know the depths of her conscious cruelty than wonder. What changed? Uncle Dmitri. Medication. Therapy. Mostly, though, learning the truth. that I was sick, not evil, that Marina loved me despite losing me, that there were people who searched for me without agenda. She refilled her tea with shaking hands. Do you know what he told me? That in Russian families, children are treasures, not projects to fix or weapons to wield against each other, just treasures. Katrina says something similar, that she treasured me even as a cluster of cells she couldn't keep. We were both treasured, just not by the people raising us. She pulled out a worn envelope. Which brings me to this. Inside were photographs, our parents younger, standing outside what looked like a courthouse. They were holding baby Lauren, beaming with triumph, but in the backgrounds, barely visible, was a young woman watching them. Dark-haired, hollow-eyed hands pressed against glass. Marina, I breathed. At the final custody hearing, Dmitri found this in her things after she died. She kept it all those years, the day she lost me forever. Lauren traced the image. Look at their faces. They're not looking at me. They're looking at cameras already crafting the narrative. Save your parents, rescue abandoned child. While your actual mother watches through a window. She wasn't allowed in the courtroom, considered too unstable, so she watched through the door until security made her leave. Lauren's voice cracked. She fought for me. Sick, broken, addicted, she still fought, and they erased her like she never existed. Another photograph. This one of teenage Katrina in a hospital bed holding newborn me. But again, the background held secrets. My adoptive mother stood in the doorway, arms crossed, foot tapping impatiently. Where did you get this? Hospital security footage Dmitri had enhanced. Look at Mom's face. She's not happy or grateful. She's impatient. Wants the messy part over so she can claim her prize. Lauren met my eyes. We weren't daughters to them. We were acquisitions, status symbols. Look at us saving damaged children with our superior love. Except when we didn't perform correctly. Then we became disappointments. You for not accepting abuse gracefully. Me for not being magically cured by their prayers. She laughed darkly. At least, my mental illness had entertainment value. Your sanity was just inconvenient. A third photograph made me gasp. Dorothy, decades younger, holding infant me while arguing with my mother. The body language was clear. Dorothy, protective. Elizabeth, demanding. Grandma tried to protect me from the beginning. She saw what they were doing, tried to intervene. They limited her access after this fight. Only supervised visits where she couldn't fill your head with negativity. Lauren studied the photo. She loved you, really loved you, not as a project or property, but as yourself. She saved documents for me for this moment. Because she knew it would come. That truth has a way of surfacing. Lauren pulled out one final item, a USB drive. This is harder, but you deserve to know. Well, what is it? Audio recordings. I started taping family conversations when I was 15, originally to prove I wasn't crazy, that the dynamic was real. Then it became ammunition, blackmail material. She slid it across the table. Everything's there. Years of their discussions about us, about their plans, their justifications, their lies. I pocketed the drive without listening. Some truths could wait for privacy. Or why give this to me? Because I'm choosing different patterns. Uncle D is teaching me about healthy family, how secrets poison everything, how truth, even painful truth, is better than comfortable lies. She stood awkwardly. I don't expect forgiveness or friendship or anything really. Just wanted you to have the full picture. What do you expect? Nothing. Maybe someday, years from now, we can have coffee without history choking us. Maybe not, but at least we'll both know what really happened. No more manufactured memories or gaslighting or pretending. I stood to leave, then paused. The therapy, is it helping? Yeah, turns out when your brain isn't swimming in copper, you can actually process emotions instead of just reacting. I'm learning empathy. It's weird, painful, necessary. She almost smiled. Dr. Martinez says I'm making remarkable progress for someone with my history. Still a long way to go. Lauren, Marinka. The Russian name felt strange. I'm glad you're getting help, real help, and I'm glad Dmitri found you. Me too. He says I can work in the restaurant while I figure out what comes next. Apparently, I'm good at prep work, methodical. Who knew my obsessive tendencies could be useful? We faced each other across years of pain, neither sure how to end this strange confession. Finally, she offered her hand. Not a hug, too much history for that. Just a handshake. Professional, distant, honest. Take care of yourself, Katrina. You deserve the family you found. You too, Marinka. You deserve the healing you're finding. I left her there, surrounded by evidence of the Kozlov family she was learning to join. Dmitri waved from the restaurant as I passed, understanding this wasn't a moment for words. The drive back to Los Angeles passed in a blur. I played the USB drive through my car speakers, hearing my parents' voices discussing us like chess pieces. Their plans to keep us dependent, their strategies for maintaining control, their fundamental inability to see us as people rather than props in their salvation narrative. By the time I reached home where Marcus waited with takeout and patient love, I felt strangely empty, not angry or sad or vindicated, just finished. The last secrets had been spoken, the final lies exposed. Lauren Marinka was right. We'd probably never be friends. Too much damage, too many scars. But we could be truthful. After 28 years of fiction, that was its own form of healing. Marcus held me while I processed Katrina on speaker from her hotel offering support. My real family chosen and biological surrounding me with the love my adoptive parents had hoarded and weaponized. What happens now? Marcus asked. Now we live, I decided, without secrets, without lies, without the weight of other people's delusions. We just live. It sounded so simple. After everything, maybe it could be. The summons to a family meeting came 3 weeks later. My adoptive mother's text was formal cold. We need to discuss the future. Lauren will be there with her uncle. Please bring whoever you need for support. I hadn't spoken to them since the hospital revelations. They'd tried calling, but I wasn't ready. Now, apparently, decisions needed to be made. I'll come, Katrina said immediately when I told her. Marcus, too. You shouldn't face them alone. Technically, Lauren will be there. Lauren's working through her own trauma. This isn't about sibling solidarity. It's about protecting yourself from people who've proven they'll sacrifice you for their comfort. She was right. We drove to Oregon together, Marcus at the wheel while Katrina and I strategized in the back seat like generals planning a campaign. The meeting was at my parents' house. Neutral ground was apparently too much to ask. We arrived to find Dimitri's car already there. Through the window, I could see them all in the living room. Lauren looked healthier sitting close to her uncle. My parents sat rigidly on the opposite couch. Ready? Marcus asked. No, but let's do it anyway. The atmosphere inside was suffocating. My mother had put out refreshments, her anxiety response, but no one was eating. Lauren nodded at me, a careful acknowledgement. Dimitri stood to shake hands. My parents remained seated, stone-faced. Now that everyone's here, my father began shuffling papers like this was a business meeting. We need to address several issues: financial, medical, and personal. Specifically, my mother's voice could have frozen fire, the matter of our investment in both your upbringings, the costs we've incurred, the sacrifices we've made. You're asking for money? I couldn't hide my disbelief. We're asking for acknowledgement, she corrected. Lauren's medical bills have destroyed our retirement, the second mortgage we took for her rehab attempts, the specialists' therapists' treatments, plus 25 years of providing for you, Katrina, college tuition, living expenses. Stop! Dimitri's voice cut through her itemization. You want payment for raising children you chose to adopt, sent bills for loving them. We're not asking for repayment, my father interjected quickly, simply recognition of what we've provided. Before everyone goes their separate ways, we want our contributions acknowledged. Katrina leaned forward. What about what you took 28 years of letters you never opened? Updates you promised but never sent? A child's right to know where she came from. What's the price tag on that? Or the medical neglect, Lauren added quietly. 23 years of treatable illness ignored because you couldn't admit I needed help. What's that worth? My mother's composure cracked. We did our best. We loved you both. You loved the idea of us, I interrupted. The narrative of saving broken children. When we didn't fit the story, you broke us further to make us fit. That's not true. Isn't it? I pulled out printed emails Hartley had found. These are from the adoption agency, warning you about Lauren's needs, begging you to get her help. You threatened to sue them for discrimination if they didn't stop harassing you. My father paled. How did you? And these, I continued pulling out Katrina's letters, 28 years of a birth mother begging for basic information. Photos, a single update. You promised her that much when she gave me to you. The agency said a clean break was better. The agency said no such thing. Katrina's voice was steel. I have the documentation. You decided a clean break was easier. For you. Not for her. Not for Katrina. For you. Silence fell heavy. My parents looked smaller, older, caught in their web of lies. Finally, Lauren spoke. I've been recording our sessions with Dr. Martinez, with permission for treatment purposes. But something she said stuck with me. She pulled out her phone, scrolled to find the recording. Her therapist's voice filled the room. Narcissistic parents don't see children as separate beings. They're extensions, props, mirrors. When the child develops autonomy, becomes their own person, the parent experiences it as betrayal. The child's independence is seen as abandonment, their truth-telling as cruelty. My mother flinched as if slapped. That's us, Lauren continued. We were never daughters. We were props in your salvation story. When I couldn't be saved, you blamed me. When Katrina wouldn't be sacrificed, you blamed her. But the failure was always yours. How dare you? How dare we? Lauren's voice rose. How dare we speak truth after decades of lies? How dare we choose health over your dysfunction? How dare we refuse to play assigned roles in your delusion? This is what comes of outside influence. My mother spat, glaring at Dimitri and Katrina. Strangers filling your heads with poison. Strangers who actually love us, I said firmly, who searched for us, fought for us, welcomed us without conditions or expectations, who see us as people, not projects. My father tried diplomacy. Perhaps we all made mistakes. No. Marcus spoke for the first time. This isn't mutual fault. You systematically abused 2 children through neglect, manipulation, and willful ignorance. Own it or don't, but stop pretending everyone's equally responsible. You have no right. He has every right. I stood, suddenly exhausted. He's shown me more genuine love in 2 years than you managed in 28. So has Katrina. So has Dimitri with Lauren. We've found real family. It just wasn't you. My mother stood too, face twisted with rage. After everything we've done? Yes, after everything you've done. That's why we're leaving. I looked at Lauren. Both of us. We're done sacrificing ourselves for your comfort. You can't just abandon us. Watch us. Lauren stood with me. Uncle D's lawyers are handling the medical bills with the hospital, charity care payment plans, programs you never bothered exploring because guilt was more effective. You'll manage. And the house? Sell it, I suggested. Downsize. Live within your means instead of mortgaging everything for appearances. Take responsibility for your choices instead of billing us for them. They tried more arguments, threats, guilt, even tears. But something had shifted. The power they'd held through secrets and manipulation was gone. We were adults who'd found truth, love, and chosen family. We didn't need their approval anymore. The meeting ended with paperwork. Dimitri had brought documents severing any remaining legal ties between Lauren and our adoptive parents. medical power of attorney emergency contacts, everything shifted to biological family. I signed similar papers Katrina had prepared, making her my official next of kin. "This is illegal," my father blustered. "You can't just erase us." "It's perfectly legal," Katrina said coolly. "Adult adoption. I'm formally adopting my biological daughter with her full consent. Something I should have been allowed to do 28 years ago." As we prepared to leave, my mother made one last attempt. "We're your parents, the only ones you've known. Doesn't that mean anything?" I considered the question honestly. "It means I survived you. That despite everything, I found my way to people who actually love me. So thank you for that, for being so terrible that I had to seek better. Without your cruelty, I might never have found my real mother." We left them standing in their perfect living room, surrounded by photos of the fake family they'd constructed. Outside, our real families waited. Marcus, checking his phone, Dimitri and Lauren talking quietly, Katrina watching the door with concern. "How do you feel?" she asked, studying my face. "Free," I realized. Finally, completely free. We convoyed to a restaurant. Dimitri insisted on feeding everyone his response to all emotional situations. Over Russian food I couldn't pronounce, we talked about futures instead of pasts. Lauren's continued treatment. My plans to move permanently to Los Angeles. The medical conference Katrina wanted me to attend with her. "As my daughter," she said proudly, "let me show you off to my colleagues, the brilliant, resilient woman you've become despite everything." "Because of everything," I corrected. "Without the pain, I wouldn't have searched for truth. Without the lies, I wouldn't value honesty so fiercely. They shaped me through opposition." "Two diamonds from coal," Dimitri raised his vodka. "Pressure makes us stronger or breaks us. You both emerged as jewels." Later, Lauren pulled me aside. "That was hard, but good. Needed." "Yeah, think they'll honor it. Really let us go." "Does it matter we're not waiting for the permission anymore?" She almost smiled. "Dr. Martinez says I need to write them a letter. Not send it, just write it. Get everything out. Might help." "Might. You could too. Say everything you never could before." That night in my hotel room with Marcus sleeping beside me, I did write that letter. Pages of pain, anger, disappointment. All the words swallowed for 28 years. I wrote about broken arms and broken trust, about being second best and spare parts, about the devastating realization that parental love could be conditional, transactional, false. Then I burned it. Watched the pages curl and blacken, taking their poison with them. The past was documented, acknowledged, finished. Time to build something new. A text from Katrina. "Breakfast tomorrow. Want to discuss the adoption timeline and maybe look at apartments near the hospital, if you're interested in being closer. Closer to my real mother, to the life I might have had, to the future I was choosing." "Interested?" I texted back. "In all of it." Because that's what family does, choose each other over and over despite distance and damage and decades of lies. Lauren had Dimitri and the Kozlov clan. I had Katrina and her fierce, patient love. We'd been collected like broken dolls by people who thought love meant control. Now we were healing in the hands of those who knew love meant letting go, holding space, and choosing truth even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. The price of that freedom. Letting go of the only parents we'd known, but what we'd gained, authenticity, health, genuine connection, was worth any cost. We were finally truly home. The text came at 3 a.m, 6 weeks after our final confrontation. "Katrina, it's Dad. Your mother had a heart attack. She's stable but asking for you. Please come." I stared at the words, waiting for the familiar guilt to rise. Instead, I felt only a distant concern, the kind you'd have for any human in distress. Not the panicked desperation of a daughter. Not anymore. "You don't have to go," Marcus said, reading over my shoulder. I know. And I did know, but some part of me needed to see this through. I'll go, but on my terms. I went alone, driving through the pre-dawn darkness. The hospital looked different now, just a building, not a stage for family drama. I found my father in the cardiac unit waiting room, aged 10 years and 6 weeks. "You came," he said, voice breaking. "How is she?" "Mild attack, stress-induced, they think. Since the meeting, she hasn't been sleeping, eating. She just sits in your old room going through photos." Dad, I know we failed you, both of you, but she's still your mother. She's dying inside without you. She's dying from the weight of her own choices. That's not my responsibility to fix." He looked at me, then really looked, and I saw recognition dawn. I wasn't the compliant daughter anymore. The guilt wouldn't work. The manipulation had lost its power. 5 minutes, I conceded. I'll give her 5 minutes. She looked small in the hospital bed monitors, beeping steadily. Without her armor of righteousness, she was just a woman who'd made terrible choices and couldn't face the consequences. "Katrina," she whispered, "you came." "I'm here. What did you need to say?" "I'm sorry." The words seemed to physically hurt her. "I know that's not enough. No, I can't undo the damage, but I need you to know I loved you. In my broken way, I loved you both." "Love isn't supposed to be broken, Mom. It's not supposed to hurt." "I know that now. Therapy, your father made me start therapy. Dr. Whitman says I have something called narcissistic personality disorder, that I can't see people as separate from myself. Can't love without controlling." The admission stunned me. My mother accepting a diagnosis that challenged her entire self-image. "It explains so much," she continued weakly. "Why I couldn't let Katrina Summers have updates she threatened my ownership. Why I pushed Lauren despite the warnings, admitting she needed help meant admitting I wasn't enough. Why I made you responsible for her. I couldn't tolerate both of you having needs that conflicted with my image." "Mom?" "Please let me finish. I may never be brave enough to say this again." She struggled to sit up. "I've been writing letters. To Katrina Summers, your real mother, apologizing, explaining. She hasn't responded, but I keep writing. And to Marina Kozlov's memory through Dmitri, apologizing for erasing her." "Why tell me this?" "Because Dr. Whitman says accountability is part of recovery, that I need to acknowledge harm without expecting forgiveness." She met my eyes, hers swimming with tears. "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I needed you to know I finally see what I did, who I was, who I still am, but am trying not to be." Okay. "I hear you. I acknowledge your apology. But Mom, I can't absolve you, can't make this better. That's work you have to do yourself." "I know." She lay back exhausted. Could we ever? "I don't know. Maybe someday if you do the work. Really change, not just perform remorse. But I can't wait for that. I have a life to live, a real mother who's been waiting 28 years to love me. I choose her." "I understand. It's what I deserve." She closed her eyes. "Be happy, Katrina, however you need to be happy, even if it's without us." I left her there with my father, two broken people facing the wreckage of their choices. In the parking lot, I called Katrina. She apologized, said she's in therapy, diagnosed narcissistic personality disorder. "How do you feel about that?" Confused, relieved, sad. Like maybe if she'd gotten help 30 years ago, we could have been a real family. But she didn't. And you can't live in what-ifs. You can only move forward from where you are. Which is wherever you choose to be. Speaking of which, I put an offer on that apartment we looked at. The one with the garden view 10 minutes from the hospital. If you're still interested in being closer. Home. Real home. With a mother who'd loved me before I took my first breath and never stopped. More than interested. When can I move in? Life in Los Angeles felt like learning to breathe after years underwater. I transferred my job working remotely for the same company. Katrina and I had dinner twice a week, slowly building the relationship stolen from us. She introduced me to colleagues, friends, the life she'd built. "This is my daughter," she'd say proudly, and each time healed something broken inside me. Lauren, I still struggled to think of her as Marinka sent occasional updates from San Francisco, photos of family dinners at Dimitri's restaurant, progress reports from therapy, small victories in learning empathy and connection. "Helped a kid today," one text read. "Little girl fell at the restaurant. Instead of walking away, I got ice and band-aids. Stayed until she stopped crying. It felt weird but good. Is this what normal people do automatically?" Yeah, I texted back. "But it's amazing you're learning. Proud of you." And strangely, I was. We'd never be close, but watching her heal with her biological family gave me hope that cycles could be broken. People could change. Not my adoptive parents, some damage went too deep, but the next generation. Marcus proposed on my 29th birthday. Not fancy, just the two of us on the beach at sunset, him promising to love me without conditions or expectations forever. I said yes while crying, Katrina's engagement ring sparkling on my finger. She'd given it to me the week before. "I never wore it," she'd explained. "Your birth father wasn't worth it, but maybe you can redeem it. Make it mean what it should have meant, real love, lasting commitment." The wedding was small. Katrina walked me down the aisle, radiant with pride. Dimitri and Lauren attended our strange, reconstructed family, united in celebration. Even Dorothy managed to come lucid enough to whisper, "You found her. Good girl. You found your truth." My adoptive parents weren't invited. The decision hurt them, I knew from the letters they sent. But some bridges once burned couldn't be rebuilt. Some choices have permanent consequences. "Any regrets?" Marcus asked as we danced at the reception. "No, pain, yes. Grief for what could have been, yes. But not regret. Every choice led me here. To you. To her. To freedom." 6 months later, Lauren called with news. "I'm applying to college. Dimitri thinks I'm ready. Psychology major, want to understand minds like mine. Maybe help kids like I was." "That's amazing, really?" "Yeah, Dr. Martinez says I have unique insight into trauma response. Fancy way of saying I know crazy from the inside." She paused. "I wanted to thank you for bringing Dimitri to me, for forcing the truth. I hated you for it then, but you saved my life. Literally. We saved each other in the weirdest way possible." "The most fucked up family reunion ever," she agreed. "But hey, we survived, both of us. Despite them or because of them, we survived." That became my mantra in the following years. We survived. More than that, we thrived. I built a career, a marriage, a chosen family. Katrina became not just my birth mother, but my best friend, the model of who I wanted to become. Strong, honest, dedicated to healing rather than hiding. The baby came 3 years later, a daughter born at the same hospital where Katrina had delivered me 32 years earlier. She held my hand, through labor tears streaming as history rhymed rather than repeated. "She's perfect," Katrina whispered as I held my daughter. "What will you name her?" "Sarah," I decided. Sarah Dorothy, after the girl who was loved enough to be given away and the woman brave enough to save the truth. "Your parents, adoptive parents, do they know?" I sent a birth announcement. No response expected or wanted, just closing the circle. They did respond months later. A savings bond for Sarah Dorothy's college fund and a simple note, "May she know only truth and love. Congratulations." It was the closest to blessing they could give. I accepted it as such, filed it away, and continued building my real life with my real family. Because that's what breaking free means, not forgetting the chains, but choosing not to wear them. Not denying the pain, but refusing to let it define you. Not pretending the past didn't happen, but deciding it doesn't get to determine your future. I broke free the day I chose truth over comfortable lies. The day I knocked on Katrina Summers's office door, the day I said enough to people who claimed love while practicing control. Now watching my daughter sleep in her grandmother Katrina's arms while my husband makes dinner and Lauren texts about her psychology finals, I understand that freedom isn't a destination. It's a choice we make every day to live authentically, to love honestly, to teach our children that blood doesn't make family, choice does. And we choose each other over and over, building something beautiful from the ashes of what others tried to make us. That's not just breaking free, that's flying. 5 years later, I stood in the doorway of Sarah Dorothy's bedroom watching her sleep. Her auburn hair, so like mine, so like Katrina's, spread across the pillow. In the soft morning light, I could see 3 generations of women who chose love over fear, truth over comfort, freedom over chains. Mama, she stirred, green eyes blinking open. Is today the special day? Yes, sweetheart. Today, Grandma Katrina officially becomes a doctor. She giggled at our inside joke. Katrina had spent 3 years getting her PhD in bioethics, focusing on adoption, trauma, and medical consent. Today was her graduation, another milestone in a life that refused to be defined by loss. And Aunt Lauren's coming? Aunt Marinka, I corrected gently. She'd legally changed her name 2 years ago, embracing her heritage. Yes, she'll be there with Uncle Dmitri and your cousins. The Kozlov family had grown. Marinka, stabilized by medication and years of therapy, had married a fellow psychology student. Their twin boys, now 3, carried no trace of the family illness, genetic testing, and preventive care, ensuring the cycle truly ended. As I helped Sarah dress in her special occasion outfit, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, but the area code was familiar. Oregon. Katrina, this is your father. I know you asked for no contact, but I wanted you to know your mother passed peacefully last night. The funeral is Thursday. I understand if you can't come. Just thought you should know, despite everything she loved you. I sat heavily on Sarah's bed, emotions I couldn't name washing over me. Grief, relief, regret for what never was. Mama's sad. Sarah climbed into my lap, small hands patting my face. A little baby. Someone I used to know died. Oh, need a hug. Always. Marcus found us there, his daughter, dispensing comfort with the easy affection we'd made sure she never doubted. He read my phone, understanding immediately. I'll support whatever you decide, he said simply. The decision took 3 days. Katrina advised, Marinka listened, but ultimately the choice was mine alone. In the end, I went. Not for them, but for me. To close the chapter completely. The funeral was small. My adoptive parents' world had shrunk after we left their church community, gradually recognizing the dysfunction they'd enabled. I sat in the back, Marcus beside me, watching my father grieve a woman who'd never learned to love without possessing. Thank you for coming, he found me after. I didn't expect she wouldn't have expected. I came to say goodbye, to let go of the last threads. I studied him, seeing clearly the man who'd chosen peace over protection. Are you getting help? Real help? Therapy twice a week. Same doctor your mother saw. Dr. Whitman says I have work to do, enabling behaviors, conflict avoidance that bordered on neglect. He met my eyes. I failed you, failed to protect you, failed to see you as more than a supporting character in Lauren's drama. Yes, you did. I'm sorry. I know it's too late, but I'm sorry. He pulled out an envelope. She wrote this for you, worked on it for months. Please, just take it. You don't have to read it, but she wanted you to have it. I took the letter thick with pages of what I imagined were justifications, explanations, perhaps genuine remorse. Later in my hotel room, I'd decide whether to open it or let it remain sealed like the years of Katrina's letters my mother had ignored. Goodbye, Dad. I hope you find peace. Real peace, not just the absence of conflict. Will I ever meet her? Your daughter, I understand if. No, Sarah Dorothy is growing up surrounded by people who love her unconditionally, who see her as herself, not a projection or a possession. That's not negotiable. I left him there among the mourners, a man facing the consequences of a lifetime of passive choices. In the car, Marcus took my hand. You okay? Yeah, it's done now. Really done. The letter sat in my purse through Katrina's graduation, where she walked across the stage to thunderous applause from our assembled family. Through dinner at Kozlov's kitchen, where Dmitri had closed the restaurant for our private celebration. Through bedtime stories with Sarah, who charmed everyone with her confident chatter. Finally, alone in our living room, I opened it. My dearest Katrina, if you're reading this, I'm gone and you've chosen grace I don't deserve. I spent months trying to find words to explain the inexplicable, justify the unjustifiable. Dr. Whitman says that's still my narcissism talking, making my death about my need for absolution rather than your need for truth. So here's truth. I was a broken woman who broke her daughters rather than face her own damage. I convinced myself that love meant control, that sacrifice meant servitude, that family meant forcing square pegs into round holes until they splintered. I know now what I did to you, how I stole your mother, your history, your safety, yourself, how I made you responsible for Lauren's healing while denying you both the help you actually needed, how I chose comfortable lies over uncomfortable truths until those lies became a prison we all lived in. I can't undo it, can't repair the broken bones or broken trust, can't return the 28 years of letters I threw away or the childhood I sacrificed to appearances. All I can offer is acknowledgement you were right to leave, right to find your real mother, right to protect your daughter from the poison I called love. Dr. Whitman says narcissists rarely change because we can't see past ourselves. But losing you, both of you, forced a mirror I couldn't look away from. I didn't like what I saw. Still don't. But at least I see it now. Be happy, Katrina, you and that beautiful family you've built from the ashes of the one I burned down. Teach Sarah Dorothy what I never learned, that love multiplies when given freely, not hoarded and rationed and weaponized. If there's an afterlife, I hope to meet Marina Kozlov there, to apologize for erasing her, for failing her daughter, for perpetuating pain that should have ended with compassion. I hope to meet 16-year-old Katrina Summers, too, to beg forgiveness for stealing her baby and her peace. But mostly, I hope you forget me, not out of anger, but out of health. Let me fade into history as a cautionary tale, not a defining trauma. You are so much more than what I tried to make you. With the love I'm only now learning to understand, Elizabeth Anderson. The woman who called herself your mother, but never learned how to be one. I sat with the letter for a long time, tears falling for the mother she could have been, the family we might have had, the love that came too late to matter. Then I placed it in the fireplace, watching it burn like I'd burned my own letter years ago. Mom. Marinka's voice on the phone surprised me. She rarely called this late. I just wanted to say thank you for everything, for forcing the truth when comfortable lies were killing us both. Marinka, are you okay? Yeah, just... The boys were asking about family tonight, about grandparents. I realize they have Uncle D and the cousins and us, but they'll never know the Andersons, and I'm grateful for that. They'll never know that kind of conditional love. Neither will Sarah. That's how we break the cycle. By being the parents we needed instead of the ones we had. She paused. I love you. I know it's weird after everything, but I do. You're my sister. Chosen sister, but still. I love you too, Marinka. Chosen family is the best kind. After we hung up, I found Marcus in our bedroom reading. Everyone okay? Everyone's exactly where they should be. I curled against him. Katrina's probably still celebrating her PhD. Marinka's tucking in her boys. Sarah's dreaming of whatever 5-year-olds dream of, and we're here building the life we chose. Any regrets about the funeral? No, it needed witnessing. The end of one story so the next could fully begin. He kissed my forehead. And what's the next story? I thought about Katrina's research on adoption trauma, how she wanted to help other families navigate truth with grace. About Marinka's psychology practice specializing in attachment disorders. About Sarah growing up secure in love that asked nothing but her happiness. The story where everyone heals, where truth wins, where love isn't a weapon but a gift. I smiled. Where 2 thrown-away daughters become the mothers they needed, the sisters they chose, the family they created. I like that story. Me too, because it's true. The next morning brought pancakes and giggles, Sarah helping by adding chocolate chips to everything. Katrina joined us for breakfast, glowing with accomplishment and pride. This was family messy, chosen real. Grammy Cat? Sarah announced seriously, when I grow up, I'm going to be a doctor like you and help sad kids find their real families. Katrina's eyes filled. That's a beautiful dream, sweetheart. Not a dream, Sarah corrected with 5-year-old certainty. A plan. Mama says plans are dreams with homework. We laughed, but she was right. Everything good in our lives had been a plan. Finding Katrina, choosing truth. Building family from nothing but love and determination. My phone buzzed. Marinka again, this time with a photo. Her boys wearing matching shirts. Love makes family. The Kozlov reunion was next month and we were all going. 50 relatives who'd welcomed their lost lamb and the sister she'd dragged to salvation. What are you thinking? Marcus asked, watching me smile at the photo. That Mom was wrong. Elizabeth, I mean, she said family isn't just blood, but she was wrong about that too. Family isn't blood or choice. It's showing up, over and over, despite the pain and distance and decades of lies. It's Dmitri searching for 15 years, Katrina never stopping loving a baby she held for an hour, Dorothy saving documents for a granddaughter she couldn't protect, even Marinka and me choosing to heal instead of perpetuate harm. And us, he added, showing up for each other every day. Especially us. Sarah bounced over Sticky with syrup and joy. Mama, tell the story about finding Grammy Cat again. Again, you've heard it 100 times. Please, it's my favorite. The part where you were brave and knocked on her door and she knew you right away because love remembers even when time forgets. I pulled her close to this miracle child who would never doubt her worth. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Sarah who became Katrina, who found her way back to Sarah again. As I told our story sanitized for 5-year-old ears but essentially true, I thought about Elizabeth's letter. Her hope that I'd forget her, let her fade into cautionary history. She was wrong about that too. I wouldn't forget. None of us would. But we'd transformed the memory from poison to medicine trauma to triumph. Her dysfunction had created the very thing she'd tried to prevent children who chose their own paths, their own families, their own definitions of love. We were thrown away like broken dolls, but broken things, when mended with gold, become more beautiful than they were before, stronger, precious in their imperfection. That's what we were now, Marinka and me, Katrina and Dmitri, all of us broken and beautiful and bound by choices instead of chromosomes. And they lived happily ever after, Sarah prompted, knowing the ending but needing to hear it. No, baby, they lived honestly ever after, which is so much better. She considered this with 5-year-old wisdom. Yeah, happy comes and goes, but honest is forever. From the mouths of babes, or perhaps from the mouth of a child raised in truth, surrounded by hard-won love, never doubting her place in the world. This was our new beginning. Not perfect perfection was another lie the Andersons had sold, but real, messy, chosen, fought for, and won. I wouldn't change a thing, because every scar had led us here to this morning kitchen full of laughter and syrup and the family we'd built from the ashes of the one that tried to destroy us. Elizabeth was wrong. Love isn't control. It isn't sacrifice or servitude or suffering in silence. Love is showing up, over and over, despite everything. Love is choosing each other, again and again, because of everything. Love is this a thrown-away baby's daughter, safe in her grandmother's arms, 33 years and 1,000 miles from where the story began. Love remembers even when time forgets. And we remember everything, the pain that shaped us, the lies that freed us, the truth that saved us. Most of all, we remember this. We are loved. We are wanted. We are home. Not despite our broken places, but because of them. Not in spite of our journey, but because we walked it together. And that's not just a happy ending. That's a beginning that never ends. If you've made it this far in our story, you've witnessed how truth, no matter how painful, can ultimately set us free. Have you ever discovered a family secret that changed everything? Or had to choose between comfortable lies and difficult truths? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. These stories of resilience and chosen families need to be heard, and your support helps me share them with others who might need to know they're not alone in their journey. Please share this video with anyone who's navigating complicated family dynamics, adoption revelations, or the challenge of breaking generational cycles. Sometimes knowing others have walked this path makes all the difference. Thank you for listening to Katrina and Marinka's journey. Remember, you deserve love without conditions, truth without manipulation, and family that chooses you as fiercely as you choose them. May you find your real home, whether it's with the family you were born into, the family that raised you, or the family you create for yourself. Until next time, keep choosing truth, keep choosing love, and keep choosing yourself. You're worth it.